like we live in a society that people rather not wear, like people rather put their grandparents at risk than wear a mask, and it's just like what? I
Wild.
don't know. Yeah, it's like what, we don't even like even if you have like a 2% chance to save someone's grandma, you wouldn't take it. Like I don't know. It is absurd. It's all absurd.
Yeah, yeah, and instead of even just considering like that it may be a very real threat or not to someone else, like instead of just considering it, people get defensive instantly, ready to fight about it. I don't know, that's pretty telling to me as well. I
A
mean,
good thing. No, yeah, but they have an emotional response to everything. You know,
mhm,
it kind of goes with that saying where like if you want to find a smart man, or well, like people individually are smart, but if you put them in groups, they get dumb.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I think I find more happiness in solitude for basically that reason.
And I realized how
Absolutely.
much I like pampered myself down over the past years, like going like from high school and being like very outgoing and like confident in myself and like expressive in my attire to like now in adulthood. Like man, I realized how much shine has been away, but like in solitude, all of it just comes right back out. This is nice.
I like solitude because it allows me to have a consistent train of thought without being interrupted. So it's like I can think longer and deeper on whatever's on my mind. When there's people around, it's like constant distraction, because everyone has something to say. And often it's not, doesn't mean anything, like people just want to hear themselves or want to talk about something empty or whatever. That's really, that can be annoying. So I prefer to not be around people too much.
Yeah, and it will be like the most harmless stuff too that like gets in the way. It's just
Yeah.
like really will kind of latch onto something that was said for like a long time without even like meaning to. If it bothers me, just like especially if it comes from you know someone close to you.
Yeah. I get it. I do. It's just, I make a decision to not entertain that too much.
Mm.
On a positive note, did any of you guys celebrate 4th of July?
No,
National Cookout Day.
I celebrated Juneteenth. I skipped out on 4th of July this year.
Gotcha. No judgment. You know, a good excuse to grill up some food and make a bunch of noise.
Parking lot hot dogs.
I did the same thing I do every night, Pinky.
Going slowly insane.
What I realize
Okay.
now too, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say like even with my friends, I find myself noticing like, all right, who's being fiery right now, who's being watery, who's being airy, and trying to see if I can just kind of play with the elements in
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah, the stuff has you looking at life in a different way. The elements are ever present in everything, all the time. Okay, okay. I think it's all set up now. I just posted it everywhere. I guess we'll take just a few minutes to let people kind of trickle in. But yeah, actually, noticing the elements in everybody like you said, it does vary from time to time and place to place and situations. Like if you have two people or more that get together, you'll notice someone always takes a dominant position and someone takes a submissive position every time. I mean, that's psychological. But when you start adding more and more people, you start to see the rotation, you know? So it's not just that, not just the horoscopes. Because oftentimes people are true to their nature as far as their sign goes, but it also varies depending on who's got more willpower, who's got more focus. I pay attention to that all the time.
Yeah, I've noticed myself that when it comes to willpower, it's more so diminished when I'm around other women, like friend groups. You know, it's like I notice it. It's not like a bad thing, but it's just like I feel more submissive around other women than I do. And it's just like something I've been probing these last few years, honestly. It's just kind of how I got here, anyway. So, just the
Yeah,
psychology of it all. Like, how come I feel more undertowed or like I'm more soft spoken when around when I'm not confident in what I have to say, or I feel like my confidence is taken from me when I'm being soft spoken. So it's like feeling those elements as well. I would say that's very airy, an air element.
yeah.
Yeah.
I take the air element most of the time. That's usually the mediator, you know, because there's always going to be someone who really has to be the center of attention. And then there's always the other person who doesn't, I guess, doesn't claim enough attention. So
Mm-hmm.
I do find myself oftentimes facilitating, you know, trying to balance the person from being too center and the person who's in the back, making sure they get a little bit of shine, you know. And of
Yeah.
course, there's the earth element who plays all the roles.
My dad's a Leo, my mom's a Scorpio. And like growing up, they always told me, like, you gotta be more, you gotta brag more about yourself. You gotta put yourself more out there. They start talking about yourself more, brag. And I'm just like, I let my work speak for me. I don't feel like I have to push it that much. But like now as I'm doing this on my own, it's like you were saying, being a business person, you have to learn how to do that too. To like kind of put yourself out there. And I guess having such a strong air placement around me, like just never crosses my mind or just feels very daunting to do.
Absolutely. All right, all right. So in the live we got Isaac. What's good, Isaac?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Duran. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, man. Thank you.
Rodolfo, how's it going, bro?
I'm good. Chilling.
Chilling, chilling. Felicia, how are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Roll call. Jason, what's good, my man? Jason's still on mute. It's all good. Melissa, how are you today? Going once, going twice. All right.
My bad.
Night,
What's
what's
up,
good?
bro?
What's
What's
good?
happening? What's
Hey, what's
good?
up, bro? And of course, Night with the super quiet microphone.
Oh, what's up? Haha.
All right. So today we're going to be discussing step 2 of initiation into hermetics, which is Franz Barden expanding upon what he was talking about in the first step. Really good techniques and tips there. And then also mystical Kabbalah. We should be talking about chapters 11, 12, and 13. And Dion Fortune is getting very juicy with this information. So, how does everybody feel about what they've been reading and practicing so far? Really? You don't say.
Well, Travis, I do have a question.
Yes.
However, in previous chapters, it's in chapter, I'm rereading it again. Chapter 3, section 13. About it talks about the paths of the tree.
Hey, Duran, could you say that again? I think it cut out for me.
Okay. Chapter 3, section 13.
Okay.
The Kabbalist further placed upon the path of the tree the signs of the zodiac, the planets and the elements. Now there are 12 signs, 7 planets, and 4 elements, making 23 symbols in all. Here are these to be fitted on the 22 paths. Herein is another blind, but the solution is simple. On the physical plane, we ourselves in the element of earth. Therefore, that symbol does not appear upon the path, which lead into the unseen. So I'm trying to account for, I don't understand how the paths were counted. They said there's 7 planets. So I look at how many planets are in a solar system, and it's more than 7. So I'm trying to see what planets were counted. How was the math done? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Okay. Excellent question. Excellent question. Okay, so that's actually chapter 4, and that's verse number 13. And essentially, what she's talking about here is since we're looking at the ancient tradition, they only calculated 7 planets. They didn't count Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune because those weren't discovered until recent times. But as far as astrology and mystical workings from time immemorial, they've always counted Mercury, the moon, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the sun as the 7 planets. So they counted the sun and the moon as 2 planets. And they call those the wandering stars. Basically, that's where the whole concept of planets came from, the wandering stars, the stars that weren't fixed, right? The other stars were fixed because they were in the same spots all the time. But these 7 were the ones that traveled. And that's what they used to calculate everything. Those were the little hand on the clock, so to speak, where the stars were like the big hand on the clock. But as far as the 22 paths that you mentioned, the number that the reason that she gets to 22 is that you've got the 12 zodiac plus those 7 planets, which makes 19. And then you've got the 3 elements, fire, water, and air. That makes 22. Earth isn't included because we're actually on the viewpoint of Earth. We are Earth. We're looking up from Earth. So Earth isn't counted. Does that make sense?
Thank you very much, Travis.
Awesome. You're very welcome.
I'd like to share how I felt about initiation to Hermetic Step 2. I know we were talking about willpower earlier, but
Fire, water, air. Oops.
So in initiation to Hermetics, there's I think the exercise where it says where you meditate with you force your legs together. I've been trying that, and that by itself, combined with the cold water, I feel like it's already changing so much on how I view life, and just like now, I can feel my will getting stronger, like a lot stronger.
Beautiful. Yeah. See, I like that because He's Slick is introducing proper meditation techniques without calling it meditation. And that's probably the most basic and basically effective asana position there is. Sitting down. I think that's called the the king's posture or something like that, the pharaoh's posture. It's got an actual name. But yeah, what he's low key getting at is, on one hand, you're developing your astral senses, the sight, the sound, the taste, the feeling. And on the other hand, you're learning how to sit the body completely still. So basically where this is leading is learning how to astral project, you know? And that's why I love this book, because it's teaching you in the slow, methodical process. So by the time you're able to do it, you're not even going to realize that you're able to do it. But yeah, even just sitting still like that and keeping the feet grounded and your body grounded, you will start to notice things change. So that's awesome, bro. That's awesome. It's amazing. So amazing.
Okay, guys. Okay, guys. So with the because I had went to like the second exercise and the third exercise. So I went back and I continued with the first exercise, and it says I think it's page 67. The attentive student will notice how in the beginning he is besieged by thoughts and how quickly they pass by him. So that will be difficult for him to remember all of them. However, from one exercise to the next, he notices that these thoughts will appear less chaotic. What I notice about that is I continue to have the same. I monitor my thoughts. I continue to have the same thoughts, which were thoughts throughout the day, but it would only be like 2 or 3 different thoughts. And I was trying to figure out why I was having these same thoughts. One of the reasons why I was having one of the thoughts, because I listen to a lot of music. So music was coming up, and then it might be a situation that I'm dealing with, it would come up. And I was just wondering, like, what's going on with these thoughts? What is the what am I after I recognize these thoughts, what it is that I'm supposed to do with these thoughts, or I'm observing them, like what is the next, what should I be doing after that, now that I realize these thoughts and where they're coming from? Should I go on to the next exercise, or analyze my thoughts and see why they continue to come up like that?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting that you got to that point where you're able to see the recurring thoughts and just pay attention to them. So, okay, what I really want to say is, who's to say there is a next step? What if what needs to be done now is just to continue to observe these thoughts and see where that leads you?
Okay.
Because, I mean, you could continue down that path of thinking, well, why am I thinking this, or why am I thinking that? But that actually creates more thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. I understand why you'd want to go in that direction. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. But my whole thing is, what Franz is kind of pointing at here is separating from thought and observing it. You know what I'm saying? Thoughts are going to continue to create themselves. So what if, by simply remaining in the observer's position, the answer becomes evident because you're still looking for it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Oftentimes, we try to fix our problems. Like, we try to take an active role consistently. I think that this exercise helps us to take more of a passive role and develop the faculties that allow the answer to come up instead of trying to dig for it. Because just like the tree of life, you got the active and then you got the passive. The conscious mind by nature is active. So we're always actively thinking and trying to figure it out. But what if we start to employ the passive and just to see how it works? Because being the observer is the active function of the conscious mind. You're just observing it. But sometimes, like a child or like a regular person, if you just let them talk, eventually they just spill everything. Well, your thoughts are like that also. If you just observe your thoughts long enough, the truth starts to come out. So that's why I say, who says you should do anything? Just continue where you're going, because you're obviously going the right direction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You said you're on step 3 at this point?
I went back to step one.
Step one, okay.
I went back to step one.
Travis, I have a question on the like conscious breathing and charging the air around you. It kind of goes back to the conversation we were having earlier. Like, let's say I'm in a conversation and I notice a lot of fire, right? Is there a way I can like, so let's say, could I use the charging air or breath thing to be like, all right, there's a lot of fire in the room. I'm gonna charge the air with water or something like that. Conscious breathing, charging the air around you. It kind of goes back to the conversation. Let's say I'm in a conversation.
Okay, I'm sorry, dude. Could you say the last part one more time? Because it got clouded with that.
I'd say, could you charge the air with water? Let's say if you're in a room full of fire, to see, just to balance things out.
You could. What I would say would be a good solution is to follow what he was talking about in step two in reference to the personality. He offered a different example. Let me find that line. Yeah, okay, so when it comes to equilibrating these elements, because whether it's in your personality, in the physical body, or in the soul, you can take the same approach because the elements are the same. They're just functioning on different planes. So I would like to point out what he said about the astral body when it comes to balancing these elements. And this would be on page 90. We said that there's three ways to balance these elements. The first one would be systematic employment or utilization of autosuggestion, basically affirmations. That's one way, by pretty much, if there's too much of a certain type of element and you want it to be something different, or rather the quality related to something different, you would speak it into existence, right, using the affirmation method. The second way would be transmutation of passions into their opposite good characteristics. So this would be what you're talking about as far as filling it with the opposite element. And then the third, which is actually the one that I prefer, because this develops your willpower and develops your internal strength, so you don't have to rely on anything else. He says the third method of balancing this stuff is attentiveness, circumspection, and willpower. And basically what that is being aware in the moment of what's actually going on and just pressing through with focus to change it by will. I think that's actually the best way to do it. For me, of course, there's 4 different types of us, so you may find a different way. But I think by just being aware of what's going on, of being aware of what element is present, and just practice willing it into balance, I think that develops a more concrete form of strength. But yeah, what you're talking about would be the second method that he said, which is filling it up with the opposite, which is valid, very valid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to know on what page are we on, or what in the Hermetic initiation?
Yes. Initiation into Hermetics. We are doing step number 2. Well, yeah, this week was step number 2.
Oh, step number 2 with the mirrors. All right, cool.
Yeah, step 2.
I didn't get into all of that because I do a lot of spiritual alchemy, and I gotten into the Hermetic philosophies, and they do tell you about social isolation from the outside world. I use a lot of various occult symbols and numerology to protect myself. Like right now, I'm in a bubble, and some of the stuff that I use is very far-fetched. I use a lot of runes and stuff. So I already understand on some aspects of the darkness that we already inhabit, and the light is also within too. So the mirror thing, I try not to get into that because the dark mirror distorts a lot of your own personal thoughts, especially if you're dealing with your own personal demons. Because demons are only but manifestations of the chaos that you can't settle.
So
but you said we on page 6.
Go ahead.
Well, you on page 68. I'm sorry.
Step number 2 begins on page 82. 82.
Oh, 82? Oh, all right.
Yeah, so step 1 lays the foundation for basically standing in awareness, being in the awareness of the body, being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your position, all those things. It also entails getting to know the astral body from step 1, which is the black and the white mirror exercise. And essentially what that's doing is having you do the shadow work. That's what the black and white mirror is. You doing the shadow work of taking into account the qualities about yourself that you need to put into balance and the qualities about yourself that you do appreciate. And then of course, the other part of step 1 was going into a daily regimen of getting the blood flowing through a cold shower or exfoliating the skin. And all that is to prepare for step 2. And then all that's going to be to prepare for step 3. The reason I chose this book is because it slowly builds upon itself. It starts from scratch. So it's very good that you already know a lot of this stuff, but to really, really advance yourself in the path, you never want to run away from first principles because they can always add to your foundation. All this information can add. Even if it may seem like it distorts your perception, what's so wrong with that? You know, I actually enjoy things that claim to distort my perception because it helps to test my own willpower. I take it as a challenge.
Oh, I'll only say that because martial arts expresses all of this.
Yes, it does.
I'm a
Yes,
martial artist. Yeah, I've been practicing for ever since I was 14. So I'm 35 now. So a long time. And also I you know how to use the I Ching in comparison with all of this. The I Ching ties into a lot of the elements because you got fire of air, water of air, you know, various things like that. And they also create combinations, especially if you know how to use the symbols and stuff, the hexagrams. And they also reprogram the subconscious. They also can be used using the postures of the fingers or mudras, because
Yes.
each finger represents an element too.
Yes. You'll find that the reason that these things all correlate together is because they all have a similar birthplace, and that would be in India. So a lot of this stuff actually originated from that area. But like I said, it's always good to add to your library because the more correspondences you have, the more effective you can be in any plane. Oh yeah. Veronica, how are you today?
Hi, Travis. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
So, pretty much I've been going over. I'll be honest with you. I went back to step number 1 because I've been trying to do this very slowly. I don't want to be like, rushing things out, but I do try to get myself into step 2, step 1, step 2, step 1. Here we go. But anyway, so with the step 1, I noticed that when I did the personalities and stuff, I noticed that when I wrote my graphic, I put the elements in it, and I realized that a lot of these elements are fire elements. And I noticed also that I get connected a lot with the fire and energy as well.
You are Sagittarius, right?
Yeah, man, I had that quality. I can't help it. But yeah,
Oh,
so
you can read people's hearts. Oh man.
I can. If I could, I will a little bit more, but I can see people, I can see people's
Yes, man.
energies. I can see people's energies, and I can see what they're going to go toward the future. I don't know. I can see it. I don't know. It's just happening sometimes. I can help it. But regardless, the point was that I have very strong connection with the fire element, and I don't have a strong, I do have a balance, and I would say attraction with water connection, because obviously water needs to balance it out fire, fire needs to balance it out the water, right? So I have that, and I pretty much I've been doing these personalities through an actually black mirror. So I literally have a black mirror with a full body black mirror, and I've been using that black mirror this whole entire week. So I might say when I am not fully reading, I am fully practicing, and when I am not fully practicing, I am fully reading. So yesterday, of course, it was the 4th of July. And of course, we have the alignments with the planets, and we have the alignment with the moons and stuff like that, right? So I was like, okay, let me just go get to my black mirror. Let me charge this black mirror. And I literally did the whole Kabbalah, the whole map of the Kabbalah in the black mirror. I painted it, I draw it, I put the numbers, I put the colors, I put certain deities on it, on those mirrors. And at literally 12:55 a.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm sitting outside of the yard with the full moon and looking at these deities. So pretty much I was able to see things through the mirror. Interesting enough, when I'm looking in my back, I look at the clouds. The clouds, they look just like regular clouds. You cannot see anything, but you look at the mirror, you can look images through that mirror. So now I see that I have connection. I already see the symbols, and I'm like, okay, so I see numbers, I see images, I see the full moon, I see the full detail. I can tell you that I was able to see the full details of the plants themselves. I can hear the noises, I can see shadows. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is all this? It was kind of cool. I wasn't afraid of it, I was not. So then instead of having the light of our eyes, if you guys look at yourselves at the mirrors, and then you see that tiny little light on your pupil of your eye, I have no longer have that in my eyes. I see like the eyes of a cat. The whole entire eyes were black. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm still having logic, of course. I'm not going to like whole divine magical thing, because my brain is pure logic. So now I'm saying to myself, okay, so now I am into that strange of like, meditation or transaction here, transition. I don't know how you say, where you get to see yourself no longer on yourself, but in the mirror itself, kind of like your soul is literally trapped in there, not trapped, but like navigating through that mirror, and you'll be able to see dimensional. Yes, so now, yes. So then I was like, okay, this is, I would tell you guys, this was happening in less than 5 minutes when I started to setting up my mirror. And after that, I was just like navigating through the whole thing. Of course, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It was not like a nice, beautiful, dark stars and, dark clouds and stuff like that, because obviously it was a 4th of July. The people were having parties in the next room. The other ones were having party in the back. So I was not fully completely concentrated.
This reality and the next. You was in between the reality.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So so pretty much what I was saying to myself is, do not allow the noises to disturb you. Do not allow that nonsense, stupidity to disturb you. Just, you came here to look at this, you concentrate, you move forward. And pretty much that's what I did the whole, like between, I would say 12:55 to, I would say 2 a.m. in the morning to like 3 a.m. in the morning. I was doing the whole thing, the whole time. And it was amazing that be able to see through those mirrors. You were able to see figures from the clouds. But now you turn your back to the real clouds, you see nothing, absolutely nothing. So it was very cool. I must say that it was very cool. So I'm going to continue today, because I know it's a whole weekend of clouds, and I hope that today these people, my neighbors, are going to be snoring because they need to go to work tomorrow or something. Yeah. I don't know. They better go to work tomorrow. I'm like, it's ridiculous. But but I'm planning to continue to do this today. Now, why am I doing this? Because I do want to continue with the step one, and I want those personalities to be written down through my subconscious mind. I don't want my conscious mind. My conscious mind can say, well, you know, you are very angry person. Well, I'm probably an angry person because what? My whole family tells me I am angry person. So now it's stuck in my head that I am angry person. But what about my subconscious? My subconscious can say, no, you only get mad because people piss you off. That doesn't mean that you're an angry person. So
Yeah, that's that fire sign. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and yes, and of course, I noticed that I have a strong connection with the fire energy. I do have a strong connection with that energy, which means that I need to balance it up with water. So now I incorporating water, like Mr.
I can throw you through the phone. Yeah, fire.
Like Mr. Barton said, you need to concentrate with the water, right? So now I do put a bottle, believe it or not, I put like a bottle of water, like a cosmetologist bottles of water. I put it in my pocketbook and I spray it over my face every time I'm around. Like, you know, I know it's good for the skin. I mean, he's right. But also I get to practice that connection with the water, to the freshness, to feel, you know, that calming, that soothing type of thing. And then, of
Oh,
course,
can I ask you a question?
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You ever seen Tai Chi Master, the movie?
Tai Chi. Well, I am a martial arts student. So Tai Chi.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah,
If you
Tai
ever
Chi.
seen, it's a movie. It's a martial arts movie.
Okay.
It's a part where he loses his mind, much like what you're talking about. Because when fire gets out of hand, you gotta stick your hands in the water or something.
Yes, I think I know which one you're talking about. The Tai Chi
Yeah,
Master. Yes.
he lost his mind. He started swirling the water. He stuck his hand in the water. He saw a ball in the water. He stuck his hand in the water. The ball went down and it came back up. So he stuck his hand in the water, started swirling the water around. That's a meditation. You should try it.
Yeah. And yeah, just to balance things up. Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been doing so far in the initiations with the Hermetics. And of course, trying to get myself into the memory of memorizing the Kabbalah and the numbers and the spheres and the paths and all that. I still have not hidden yet the tarot the tarot cards, like the way that you do in the Travis, because I kind of want to like back it up myself a little bit on that, because I need to. Right. No. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm like, I know the videos are there. So once I get into to get to actually get used to with the practice of the actually practice energy on the Kabbalah itself, I'll be able to move forward. But right now I am in that transition of like releasing the single deities and doing the spheres themselves, and not getting into like, why if I call Lily, I don't call Hecate? Or why if I call Zeus, I would not call Jesus? Or why if I call Tha, I would not call Hermes, right? So, but the one thing I did read about one of the books that I was reading up there is about Sagittarius, Geminis, Virgo, that they are connected with the sphere of Hud. That's the name of that sphere.
Yad-hi-Vauhi.
Right. So
yeah, the four pillars of the heart.
Right. HUD. Yeah. HODD. I think it is HOOD.
HOD.
HOD. Look at that. Mercury, so pretty much they were saying that there is connection with this sign, with horoscope signs, and I understand now why I am so connected into books and theory and libraries and science and thinkings and stuff like that. That's because that sphere itself reflect that on our personalities. So the more I think about that, reading about the Kabbalah itself, I think it's just like in the old times, they were trying to break down God itself, but not like break down the negative, but like to break down the code itself. And it's more like personalities of the humankind, and they put it in like division on what these spheres represent on the human itself. And of course, now you're going to come into your deeper subconscious. And I think this is with the magician or magicians we are, like we wanted to work in a subconscious level. Now in the conscious level, you're going to be able to see, just like superficial standard of our conscious mind.
Yeah, like the Latin said. Yeah.
Right.
You'll
Yeah.
see a lot of this in chapter 12, where
Yeah.
she talks about the gods upon the tree, and she
Mhm.
talks about, you know, how the ancient cultures tried to ponder and think about the natural forces that moved the world, and how they applied a lot of the understanding that they had to the workings of themselves. And that's why a lot of times we see the gods as humans, right? We see these images of these deities in every culture as people, because again, they're symbols. And the best way that early man could understand these complex energies was by relating them to himself. I like the passage, the part she says in verse number 3 on chapter 12. There's a saying in the mysteries, see that ye blaspheme not the name by which another knoweth his God. For if you do this in Allah, you will do it in Adonai. And I think what she's saying there is, you know, really not to look down or talk shit about anybody else's God, because
Right.
a lot of times,
Yeah.
well, shit, it's not an independent individual God. Every God is a representation of a specific type of energy.
Yep.
So all these people that are talking shit about Jesus or white Jesus or black Jesus, doesn't matter. It's all talking about the energy of Tiferet.
Which is connected with the thing I was reading in the other book, a magical Kabbalah. They have a magical Kabbalah that I was able to download on a PDF drive, and they break down that concept where they have Jesus in there as well, and then they say, well, Jesus is pretty much I think it's Ra, in because it's the light, the sun, the Ra,
Temple.
right? And then they were saying that he's the phoenix itself. And believe it or not, Travis, it has the unicorn in it. It's related to that as well. So I don't know if that correlates with you, but it has that correlation in there with the animals and the spirits and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
this is why I decided to do that mirror with the Kabbalah mapping in there and go outside and charge it. Like I literally, guys, I was able to see that pad, those lines, those 777 lines that usually Travis write down in the Kabbalah map. I was able to see that light, like it's kind of like light through the moon, that it was like charging those areas. And I was like, yo, this shit is awesome. So I couldn't wait to share this with you guys. And of course, when I did the draw, I did it in gold color. And of course, my mind would say, well, you know, if it's gold color, you have the moon reflection, that color, that gold color will come into that mirror. Of course, my brain, my Western, my science, logical brain is thinking like that. And all of a sudden I was like, no, back it off. It's just, and actually you're charging it. So yeah, so I'm going to continue with that tonight. I'm not done about it, you know, and I'm still going to go doing more practice, man. That's it. I like practice.
That's awesome, Veronica. That's awesome.
I
That's
do
amazing.
like practice. Yeah.
And so you find that you get these extraordinary type of this extraordinary feedback when you actually take the effort and do something physical, right? Instead of just reading about it.
Yeah.
When you take the effort to actually do something physical, you'll find that you learn so much more.
Right.
So I want to ask you, did you say that you actually constructed a black mirror?
Yeah, it's a black mirror. It's a black mirror. It's black. And I hide it. Nobody sees that mirror. Like I have it in my room and nobody sees that mirror behind. Nobody sees it.
Shit is off.
Yeah. It's a full body mirror. You can do it.
It's a brown.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, you can buy it in BJ. What do you call it? BJ's, Target. You buy a whole full body mirror and you make it black. A whole full body. And then you see, also I was practice the one with the Mr. Mr. Barden was saying for you to sit like a king or like a queen or like, you know, like relaxation in the chair when you can sit. I don't know if you guys saw that part on the book. So I did that as well, and it was good. Actually, that actually shows you how much your personality, how much strength of your personality you can have. It shows you how much confident you can be.
Dumbass shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Hey, peace, Travis.
You know what?
If somebody
Yeah, man,
come to my house, pick me up.
What's good, Django? What's good?
Hey, and I want to say thank you to Veronica for sharing that her experience with us. It just made me think that when I began with natal charts and stuff like that, I did my regular, the regular natal chart based off of the westernized astrology, how it's just presented, all the time. But when I got into the Ayam Namsa or the sidereal astrology, instead of based off of the original format, which was being that I'm born on November 25th, that makes me a Sagittarius. But when I did the Ayam Namsa a natal chart, or what's called sidereal, it switched me to a Scorpio. So basically, when we look at these elements
That's
and
your
when we look
lunar.
at
That's your
particular
lunar.
elements that
Talking about
operate
lunar.
within us, it might be a good, and I'm just saying it might be a good idea to try to look into your sidereal astrology, and you will actually see that you are balanced in your expressions of the elements, because of course we know Scorpio was a water sign and Sagittarius is a fire sign. So we may reflect or the action of a particular element may be strong within our reflection, but you will also, once you get to know all of yourself, you will see that your balance is there, and that knowing will bring you the actual awareness and realization, and you can so to speak act accordingly and know
Right.
which one.
Oh,
And this
oh,
is
you
why
talking
I'm
about
doing this.
the
This is why I'm doing this very slowly. I'm not doing this in a rush. I'm pretty much
Yeah.
I'm doing this very slowly because I know that the personalities that I have right now, reflected, negative and positive, are very fire. But I know that I know I have to work in other personalities, but I'm just waiting for the Black Mirror to tell me
Yeah.
what it's about. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily negative, as we know, it's the usage of the particular force or the particular tetrapolar magnet that we're using within ourselves that will make the action within this physical realm be a negative or a positive experience to whoever it's projected to, even to our own self, but I think the more that I've gotten into this and studied both of these together, and that's why I always just tell Travis I'm thankful for coming into his presence and coming into these classes, because I always kept everything. I'm very systematic. I'm very methodical. I would make an excellent Methodist in in religion, because I'm very methodical in
like a
the
Virgo.
in the way that I do things. I'm very Sebekian, or I'm very logical and stuff like that. So I'm learning to be balanced within that understanding, and as within the mystical Kabbalah, where astrology and tarot and the tree of life are not separate systems. They're all basically one system, just given from a different particular perspective or vibration. So by bringing those all together, it's actually bringing my own self together. So with the white and the black mirror, as Veronica was saying, the black mirror is reflecting onto basically my being. Yes, sir, exactly. Is bringing onto my being and the awareness that I personally have to go more into the subjective. So that's why when last week, when we were you were speaking about the paths, and I had asked the question, and you would say, well, just stick with one thing at a time. I've been stuck on the paths ever since last week. I've been going in. I'm trying to find who are the particular angelic beings, who are the demons of these paths, because it's something is breaking within myself, so I'm going through another threshold of the black mirror. You understand what I'm saying? So the more I read these books, the more that it just keeps breaking it keeps taking me deeper into a threshold.
Yo,
If that makes sense.
It does. And yo, I'm on the same track with you. Like like I said last week, I think I ignored the paths my first time around because I didn't think they were important because I was young and naive, and like a lot of us thought that I already knew everything, but I didn't. So this time around, as I'm really looking into these paths, I'm seeing how important they are. I'll be honest with you. Last week when you asked me about the paths, I guess one of my triggers is when I'm asked a question that I can't answer adequately. So when you asked me that, I didn't feel that my answer explained it enough for me, because oftentimes I'm channeling these messages. So if I don't answer it for myself as well, then it doesn't sit right with me. So I instantly went out and bought like 3 books on the paths. One of them that I'm reading so far is added a lot of clarity for me, and I'll share it with you. Of course, we know I can't really share these books online anymore because the price starts to go up. But if you guys are interested, I'll type it in the text here. But Shango, if you didn't see, I recently did a video about laying out these cards and whatnot, and I wrote up some notes that I mean, shit, you can get it in this book here, Mystical Kabbalah. But I wrote up the notes about what the names of those paths were, and I was memorizing the major arcana that go with each of these paths, so that when I go into my astral projection, I can, you know, willfully travel to each one. And yeah, you start to really get some clarity on what this is all about. And I found that Doth, I'm trying not to jump ahead, I really am, but it's hard in this stuff because it's so exciting. But Doth really deals a lot with shadow work. So it's pretty interesting that Franz Barton is talking about this black mirror, because the realm of Doth has a lot to do with the shadow work and the knowledge of self. And really,
Thank you. Yes, that's what I didn't know
that. But yeah, go ahead.
You know, it's just powerful. Like I said, to experience the actual reading come into manifestation. It's like how Veronica mentioned earlier about, you know, Tippereth, and it being basically concerned with what we would call saviors, the savior energy, Heru and stuff like that. But that, to me, it once you really contemplate that and meditate on these spheres, you'll begin to actually see how it's from the materialistic substance, or the objective from the subjective. So when we look at or we hear, a lot of people are triggered by the name Jesus Christ because they're so stuck on the material essence of Cesare Borgia being the picture that they see and all of this, the white Jesus and blah, 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 instead of taking away the name and the material and look at the Christos, looking at the essence of what the persona basically began to what it shows. It's basically
the creation of the Jesus concept.
Yeah.
Ew.
So the whole thing is, it's not necessarily like a person who was put upon this cross, and by this thing deals with points of recognition of a spiritual energy that we all can activate within ourselves. So that's why it's good that, you know, we're actually able to get the study of the mystical Kabbalah and also the initiation into Hermetics, because it deals with mind and body, spirit and soul, and so on and so forth.
Beautiful.
Shit. They do have tracks out there on Jesus and his travels across the deserts, the Nazarene tracks. I think I'll probably try to throw them up there on Facebook if I got them in my drop.
Like a mixtape.
He does a lot of when he runs into the Nazarenes, he learns a lot of fire and psychic energies. That's how he learned most of his manifestation. The desert people, that's what they called them in the track.
Yeah, you're right. Because most desert tribe people are nomadic. They don't necessarily have a homeland. They're always on the move. So with even that right there is an example of that this is not our home. Malkuth is not our home. Earth is not our home. We're only just traveling through here to up so the creative consciousness can have another experience of physical consciousness, and then we just return back into that. But you know, as in our meditation and astral travel, once we eliminate the who we think we are within the meditation, because that's really what the level of meditation is really not to make us namaste and peaceful and calm. It's really for us to separate who I think I am and to realizing that I am nothing but a raindrop in the ocean of consciousness, or in the essence of noon, you know. So once we get that, we realize that I'm not just the tree of I'm just not just the tree of life. I'm the actual seed that the tree emanates from, or the shell, or so, you know, whatever, blah blah blah. You know.
You talking about? All right, I get you. All right. You talking about taking down the light and then going down into the darkness, like the glipol.
You basically, you are the light, you are the darkness. You are, see, light has to have, it's no different than the iron. It has to have a point from where it emanates from, but you cannot find the beginning of the light. So that's the difference between mind and brain. The brain wants, see, that's science. Brain always wants to find, well, where's the beginning of light, and light travels at this here and it takes this how long. See, that's just Dr. Spockism. You know what I'm saying? We got to go into saying, well, I realize there is a light, but I do not attempt to logically try to explain where this light comes from. I just realize that it's a light. I see the reflection of the light, so I am the light, and I am also not the light. So
But God also tells you where the light comes from, through the photon belts. Like,
see, that's science. That's science. There is the beginning of light, and what? See, I'm not talking about
just light.
I'm not talking about the light taking, you turn your light bulb on, or the light that you see from sunlight. I'm talking about the light of life, the light of the essence of essence.
You're talking about causation and effect.
If you want to call it that, that's just, you know, basically we want, if we want to label it something, we can call it causation, we can call it effect, we can call it dark, we can call it light.
With hermeticism, like you talking about apotheosis a little bit.
Well, either way, that part that you guys were talking about, A and B is A and B. I think that you put that phrase up there, Travis. You were putting that message in your links. I think that's literally correlated what we're talking about here, because at the end of the day, I come from science, from actually science, and I can tell you this: there's different systems between magic and science, but at the end of the day, we have something in common, and it's an experiment. And I think that for history, for us, for science, it's coming from actually magic, right? Medicine originally comes from magic, because we used to call them healers. Now we call them doctors, but in the past we used to call them shamans. Then we used to call them healers, and now we tend to call them doctors. So now for magic, it's similarity in a way, where we used to call them witches, magicians, sorcerers, and stuff like that. And now at these days, we try to convert it into quantum physics. So
we're all chaos beings. We are all chaos beings. We're just all chaos beings.
It's all experimental. That's pretty much what we do. And then we all have our own theories and our own concepts based on our own education and our own beliefs. And of course, getting ourselves, sharing information, I think is the best thing that we can learn from each other. But I would tell you this, practicing, it's literally the best thing you can ever experience. That it's so personal, like Travis used to say, and I have that actually in my room. When it says magic is personal, it really is personal. So yeah, so it's kind of cool. I really think it is pretty cool.
Okay, somebody in the chat had a question about chapter 12, verse number 13. Page 81, where Dion Fortune is talking about the performance of a ceremonial rite, symbolically representing the working force personified, has a very marked and even drastic effect on the subconscious mind of any person who is at all susceptible to psychic influence. The whole philosophy of European magic is based upon the tree, and no one can understand it or use it intelligently who has not been trained in the Kabbalistic methods. It is this lack of training which makes popular occultism so very apt to degenerate into the crudest superstition. Your number in your name becomes a different thing when we understand the mathematical Kabbalah. Questions in teacup are another matter when we understand the significance of the magical images, the method of formulation and interpretation as a psychological device for penetrating the veil of the unconscious. Smooth Shaddai, to answer your question, what she's talking about there essentially is that when you deal with these rituals and ceremony, just like religion, you've got the two levels, esoteric and you have the exoteric, right? Now, the exoteric is what most people see and I think is deep. The esoteric is the true hidden meaning. So a lot of people who hear these nifty buzzwords, you know, the Kundalini and the, you know, all these other hot topics, they say this stuff, but they don't know what it means, and you can tell. They leave it at that. It's when you look at the actual science of this art, you start to see that it makes sense, method to it. So it's your number and your name, that's equivalent to when you see the it's easy to throw it away if that's all that you, as we're seeing here, if you're actually doing the work, it's mathematics, and it's a system that have meanings, and when put in combination, you can read their in physical reality. That's the distinction of people who corrupt it for the exoteric understanding do go into the esoteric understanding. This is just the show of deepness. Let me know if that made sense to you in the chat. And that's really a lot of what I try to do here with you.
All right, so you basically explaining that the stuff that we're reading is see through the dogma and get into the actual essence of I'll just use the book for reference.
Well, that's the mindset that I'm talking about.
Out of your subconscious on the meditation on the tree of life.
Yeah. So
yeah, every color that you ever read about inside the book also harmonized subconscious. Very irritating. Sometimes you can also hear the moon vibrate. It's I go through it every day.
Okay. What I would suggest to you specifically is to really take a look at the story of a person who comes to the class with his cup full. It's very difficult for him to learn because his cup is full. You got to come to the class with your cup empty. And even though you know a lot of things, it will serve you even better to come in like you don't know anything. That way you can learn more. If you approach the science thinking that you already know everything about it, you're not going to learn anything about it. And that's actually something that she talks about, I believe, in chapter 12. It's very difficult to learn if you approach this as if you already know. Now, there may be words that you recognize, and there may be concepts that you're familiar with, but I guarantee if you approach this information here as if it's something that you don't know, you're going to learn a whole lot more, and you'll be able to add to this conversation in a much more constructive manner.
Are you saying I'm not adding anything constructively?
No, that's not what I said. I'm saying if you said in the beginning, pretty much that you don't have to.
Relating, just trying to relate. I'm just relating. That's all.
Yeah. Don't take what I'm
Using
saying the wrong
Dolph
way.
right now. I'm using Dolph right now in my hand. So I already understand where you coming from. I got you. I understand. I'm reading everything. And I got the book sitting right up here in front of me.
Yeah. So to really get on the vibe, I'd suggest going through step 1 and actually doing it. So I know you said earlier you're already familiar with it and you don't have to do it because you pretty much know what it's talking about. But even I'm doing this process, and clearly I've already been through it already, but I'm doing it again because I see the value in coming back time and time again as a newborn, right? The Bible, Christ says, come as a little child. It is a great detriment to yourself to ever think that you already got this shit down. You never want to have that mindset. That actually takes you backwards. You want to approach this every single time as a student.
It's actually in your nervous system. Yeah, I don't forget anything. I understand. It's in your nervous system. Most of this stuff ties into your nervous system. Like the moon, it ties into your subconscious, your cerebral cortex. I understand.
Hiren in the chat says, I just came across this channel and live by chance. I have a question. What is the true purpose of the tree of life? And when one masters the studies, how would you apply it to your current existence? Hiren, the best way to answer that question is to actually study it and practice it. I guarantee you it'll make itself evident to you. But the best way to look at the tree of life, the best way to approach it is as if it's a filing cabinet for all this mystical mumbo jumbo. The tree of life serves as an organizational system so that you can properly understand what these symbols mean and how you can use them. To answer the second part of your question, you said, when one masters the studies, how do you apply it to your current existence? When you master these studies, you begin to understand that this filing cabinet gives you a way to work with the multiple levels of reality. That is the physical level, the mental, psychic level, the astral level, and the ultimate level. Having access to the understanding of how these realms work, you can actually intentionally affect these realms. And I'm trying to put this in, as regular words as possible. Most of the teachers that you might see on the internet have a surface level understanding, especially if there's no study of Kabbalah involved. But when you start studying the Kabbalah, you go a whole lot deeper as far as understanding exactly what it is that we're doing. A lot of us can repeat words, but you've got to have an understanding of what you're talking about. I forget the verse, but it was in the most recent chapters where Dion talks about it's not enough to just read this stuff. It's not enough to just know what the symbol looks like. In order to be effective with these symbols, you have to also practice with them. It's just like a musician, right? She said a violinist or even a guitarist. We can use that for modern days. You can hear a song and you can see the sheet music, but if I were to tell you to play the note A flat, you can't just look at it. You have to actually know what A flat sounds like. You have to know the finger combination to hit it to know that it sounds right? You've got to know what each one of these notes sounds like on your instrument. Likewise with these symbols and the tarot cards. It's not enough just to have a deck. It's not enough to just know how to do a certain spread. You got to meditate on these symbols as well to get the deeper meaning of what they actually mean. So when you're using the Kabbalah, it's a system of organizing all of these symbols so that they make sense on multiple levels.
I see the Kabbalah is just putting all the vibrations together. Especially it runs through the nervous system. Nothing is forgotten. The past, present, and future exists within self.
Hanifa says tree of life or Kabbalah is one way, not the only way, right? Absolutely.
You know how I look at this stuff? It's like when I was in masonry, you have a speculative mason and you have an operative mason. I was once an operative mason as well. I built homes, but when I became a third degree mason, that made me a speculative mason. So now we take everything that we've done in the physical world and we now reverse that thing so we can see it in the spiritual world. What does it mean to build Solomon's temple? You would never go find it. You would never find no ruins, temples, hammers, or anything of Solomon's temple, because it's basically the soul of man. It's you. It's your solar center that you actually build. So everybody's answer is correct. Everybody's question has an answer. Everybody is a lock and everybody is their own key. That's the whole movie of the Matrix. None of those characters were actually real. They were all just programs. The key master wasn't real. The architect wasn't real. They all were just programs operating within who? Within Neo, who was actually the one. He was actually by himself. All of the actual things wasn't real. And by meaning real, it wasn't created by anyone else for him to fall into it. It's the same movie as the Never Ending Story. He had to say, the boy had to say the name. He had to realize that he's reading the story and writing the story at the same time. It's no different when I was a 5%. We said that we build our history going forward. It's called we build our own Quran, meaning that I write my own book of life. My book of life is not built on my enlightener, Prince Shalik Allah. Prince Shalik Allah wasn't my savior. He just gave me the supreme mathematics and supreme alphabet so I can save my own self. He just was a mirror, whether it was a black mirror or whether it was a reflective mirror. He was the sun, and he did nothing but emanate the light onto me, so I became my own sun. So that's the same thing with this information. And that's why we have to follow these particular steps, because if we allow everything to toss us this way and toss us this way about what somebody says, if it don't correlate with the way that we've learned it or what I've known, then you're a worm. You are an object, meaning that you are someone else's punching bag to continuously throw things, and you be the receiver. So we have to actually be
a lot of paraphrasing. What's up with all this paraphrasing? I hear you and Travis paraphrasing each other. What's up? What's going on? I'm trying to understand what's where we at in the book. Like, I was saying too much. I shouldn't be using this book only as a reference, and this is only but a social experiment. That's why I joined Travis Maggus's group, because I was just wanting to find out what the people are doing. Because I feel as though I'm being attacked on both ends, Zango and Travis. What's going on? Because I'm just asking questions and giving insights and stuff like that. I read the book. I still got the book. I got a hard copy and a PDF copy. So what's going on?
I don't know. You are the answer in the question. You have to answer that yourself.
Oh, okay. So this is you shooting it back at me. So we're done with all that. So I want to ask this question. Did anybody get into John Dee's books any of his books? I want to understand, since we're talking about dimensions and stuff, how to access those things, those dimensions. I want to know how to access those dimensions using the Kabbalistic energies. Because John Dee used the same works to access the macrocosm or the macros. That's the things that these illuminates are using. And I wanted to see where the people at. That's all. That's all the reason why I'm just trying to figure out where all the people at that know some of this stuff, or at least is studying this stuff. I got students. I got people that I show. I use a lot of Aberline the Mage his grimoires. I don't use my own personal 5 grimoires. I'm just checking y'all out. I didn't know that y'all was gonna use passive aggressive. I am using Doth. Yeah, I know what Doth is. I'm actually using the celestial current, the actual planetary symbols. That's interwoven into all this craziness that we're all part of.
I gotta interject now. See, that's the whole thing. That's why you feel the way you feel, is because you keep saying you. You attach to how you fucking feel.
And you must be feeling me because you are reflecting my energy.
No, I'm not. I'm answering you. You asked me a particular question about whether me and Trav were something. I was explaining a situation based on.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to help the soul.
Wait a minute, let me jump in this because I've been listening the whole time.
And I got this my one of my main students.
And I'm his wife. Hello, everyone.
Help out.
It sounds like 2 of y'all sound real mad right now. Like y'all sound really offended at this present time.
Because I just got attacked on
now everybody, yes, 2 people.
I read the book when y'all was at partying.
Excuse me, I read the book backwards, forwards, sideways, frontwards, in my sleep.
And I got the grimoire, and I'm trying to fight this white supremacist, and I'm trying to get this reparation. You talk about energy, child. I know about Gabor. I know about Shadel Chai. I know about all of that. But my name is.
Why do you feel attacked again?
I'm not sure. Well, actually, I am
Why
sure.
why do you feel attacked?
What the hell is going on here? Seriously.
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out why you feel attacked. I thought everyone was just kind of talking.
I don't know. I lose the path here, man. I was nice learning here. Now it's like
I was trying to just give an example of speculative masonry and operative masonry, and then it went into a whole nother level.
Well, you were saying about masonry, and
I just became a Mason, by the way. It's the no spoilers.
what was that last part that you said, Django?
I'm totally confused. You know what I mean? But
okay, so the one thing I was following you is saying about the Matrix, that this guy was literally, he was the one who wrote the story. He was.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's basically the Mason. That's what I said. I said you're the answer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like nothing, like everything that was every character that portrayed itself as a separate from the one was actually a part of him. And then as I was saying that, he says that we were passive aggressive and we were, so the whole thing, what happened is this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
What manifests is what needs to manifest.
Right. I can't brag too much, but we just witnessed some real time
manifestation. So then when I attempted to answer his rant, I don't know what happened. But it wasn't.
I don't know what happened. Hold on. How about this? Excuse me, Travis. Can my husband have his $20 back? Can my husband have his $20 back? Because I'm having a baby in October, and that money should be going to my baby and not to the bullshit that's going on right now. So do me a favor and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No,
I'll be
man,
more than happy.
he just got into
Damn.
it.
I'll be more than happy.
Because they just said his wife came on and said, she said, I want my $20 back because you got to pay for to be in the group. And he said, I want my $20 back because I'm having a baby. And
why even pay for the group? You have your own teacher.
What? You can
What the hell is going on here?
I will give him $40 more on his account. That's what will happen right now. He gives his $20 to him, to her, and now he pays $40 fucking more on his checking account. That's how fucking as Jupiter energy is. You do that to somebody, I will give you more. How about that?
I'll be happy to give you your money back. I think
what happened? What just happened?
This is some chaos in the making, I swear.
Yeah, that's what I felt. That was the energy was going down, and it's just plummeted.
I'm trying to keep up with the comments because they're pretty funny.
I'm right here, honey.
Yeah, just send me your Cash App. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, I want my money back.
Like, Tom, I'm over that. Like, y'all both came at me on using some high level flip flop shit. Like, come on.
I'd rather listen.
Hey, listen. Send me your Cash App so you can get your money back. But you can go enjoy your baby. I hope everything works out perfectly.
Great tasting and sure.
All right. See, I'm just catching up on the comments because they're funny.
Enjoy your baby.
Okay, you guys. It's funny. When you MC Maestro says when you stuck in DOS for $40. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that was bound to happen. I actually was hoping it would happen sooner than later, but I knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah, I saw it coming.
I knew it was gonna happen from the first meeting.
It's a cooking pot with a built-in.
And I apologize to everybody on this platform, whether it's through Zoom or whether it's through YouTube, if I was out of order. But
no, you were straight, bro. You know you were straight.
Boy, I'm an
a lot of this stuff.
No, dude was just about his ego. It was just ego.
Ego was heavy. It was heavy.
No Homo says, let's set up a GoFundMe for the baby.
Oh shit.
I'm done.
Straight Panther 79 said it's too early for alcohol.
Potatoes.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so anybody did something interesting yesterday night? Like a magical spell, practical, or anything that correlates with what we're doing, what we're reading?
Obviously, I must have done something last night to manifest today.
Yeah, I was going hard on the tarot cards last night. I was memorizing the paths. Like, if you follow the last 3 videos I did, I think that those are a really quick and easy exercise on how to memorize these cards and what they mean. Starting with, of course, putting the different suits in order of the 4 worlds and actually lining up the major arcana with the zodiac and the elements. And then the last one I did, you can line them all up with the whole wheel. and know that each zodiac sign has the 3 different I don't know how you say it, decants, 30 degrees. But there are 3 cards of the minor arcana that line up with each of the zodiac signs. One easy way to know what goes where is that each suit, the element goes with the matching sign. For example, Taurus goes with the pentacles, Aries goes with wands. And if you just know that part, and you know that the fixed signs are the 5, 6, and 7 cards, you can line them all up. That, and also just memorizing the major arcana's position on the paths, which you can easily find. It's even in the back of Mystical Kabbalah, actually.
I had to get that book, man, the Mystical Kabbalah, the book that you have, the Tarot one.
Yeah, so the back here, line on the back of Mystical Kabbalah, it lines up the number of the paths, which goes with what, you know what I'm saying? So they actually go in order, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's an easy way to memorize what cards go with the paths. But if you previously memorized which major arcana go with the different zodiac signs, I think it'll make it a lot easier for you. But I think in a week's time, I memorized all the cards by heart and the meanings of them and their positions on the tree. So there's hope for you. I know. That's what I was up doing during all the fireworks. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I believe that memorizing these cards and their position on the tree will absolutely facilitate your understanding of the paths once we get there. Because this is all a symbolic system. This has nothing to do with, this doesn't rely heavily on left brain logic. This has a whole lot to do with the abstract mind. So the best way to understand the abstract mind is through symbols. And that's what Dion Portion has been telling us in this book study. I think everybody is muted. I don't know if anybody's saying anything right now.
Now, question about the water, when you charge the water, because you know how you have in the initiation to Hermetics about you charging the water, you charging the food. Like, yeah. How do you even, because I come from Chinese, as you already know the story about Chinese, but the Chinese, we have like a very specific way about the foods. Like we have foods that literally they balance it up. Let's say water, right? So we're gonna need certain foods that they can actually, when there is too much water element, we're going to need certain foods that are going to actually absorb the water and trying to balance the water. Or similar with the fire, when it was too much fire element, we tend to give foods that can help you out to balance it up, that fire type of element. Or even earth. The most famous ones with earth is actually the mushrooms, believe it or not. The mushrooms, when you have darkness in earth itself, you know how you have the cloudy coming rain and stuff like that, and you get to see that cloud. So usually you get to see most likely mushrooms, and those mushrooms, they get inflamed or they get bloated because they absorb that cloudiness from earth itself. Now, when they are talking about in Barton's book, it's like you actually put a kind of kind of like a meaning when you're eating that food. Like, how do you even do that? Like, I'm like, I don't know how exactly. I mean, I know you can just say, oh, I'm eating this banana because this banana is going to help me to release my anger or whatever. But to me, it's like a banana is actually releasing darkness, because banana, it's bloated, it's inflamed, it's bitter. And then you just like, you get all this like wet situation around the banana. So how do you actually charge a fruit, or charge a fruit, or charge a food, or even charge the water? Because I know that concept that about the scientist up there, that he was reading the water, you can see the particles when somebody's mad, when somebody's happy, when the water you charge the water with love, and you see the particles being changed completely. Okay, so how do you even do that? Like it's not just saying, it's just you have to have a way to say how you actually charge it.
Okay, yeah, I get your question. And I think to really understand this, there's two things that we got to remember that Franz Barton actually did cover in step 2. One of them is that you want to remember about the auto suggestion. It has to be done in the present tense. One of the sentences says, the key to auto suggestion and obtaining the desired result lies in formulating a positive phrase in the present tense in the form of an order. So whatever it is that you're charging, it's got to be in the form of an order. It's got to be in the present tense. The second thing to remember, this is on page 85. He says, as a rule, any wish that concerns the spirit, the soul, and the body can be realized. In other words, ennobling the character, battling against negative character traits or other weaknesses and disharmonies, attaining good health, eliminating or promoting various tendencies, and developing abilities. So what I said that to say is, number one, you want to frame all this stuff as a command in the present tense. Number two, you want these things to be, to build yourself, whether it's in body, soul, or spirit. Now, as far as how this is actually done, it's done through concentration, through will, through focus. It's just an assumption. You don't sit there and say, I am charging this banana with energies that will help me to learn better. It's more like you use your faculty of imagination and you see it happen the best way that works for you, whether that's little bitty shiny particles going inside the banana, right, making it sparkle. But this is where you understand the intent. We're working on the consciousness level. The intent of, you know, within the next week, I'm going to absorb more information about my studies than I have in the past 6 months, right? That's an intent. And you just imagine the banana being filled with that and you're happy with it and you eat it. So it's kind of just done. It's just understood and accepted. It's not thought about, it's not broken down, debated, and questioned. Just go with it.
So it's programming your brain. In other words, it's just programming yourself. This is the concentration, focus, and intent. It is. And a present sentence, and to build up your body and spirit. Got it.
It is. It is. And it's more than just, and what you're actually doing is you're doing it on a different level. One level, when you program your brain, it's just words or something you accept. But you're doing it with food now. You're doing it with water now. You're doing it with breathing now. Basically, you're attacking the angle from every possible field. Because they say you are what you eat. That includes your thoughts, what you breathe, what you put into your mouth, what you put in other places.
That's a very interesting way to actually help people with when they get sick. Do they have diseases and they want you to do something? It's a good way to like programming them. Okay.
Yeah.
Plus you got hydrogen in probably everything. And that's one of the components of water. And we know that, you know, water traps everything. So, yeah.
I think that's the importance of using, as the Kemetic science called hekal, or the words of power to speak over over particular things, or even the Sanskrit language. So I don't know if if this material eventually gets into that, but I've always kind of known or have incorporated that it's really important to use those, and that's really the importance of the actual Hebrew alphabet on the tree of life. That's particularly assigned to the paths, because those letters vibrate as such as on the lotus or the padmi of the chakras. They have what's called bij or seed mantra, and those are the actual activated consciousness of the actual lotus that opens it up to be receptive to put in or to take out. So I think that when we want to activate something, it might be, and it's just my opinion, it might be a good thing to utilize a language, or to utilize a particular mantra in another language that will vibrate the particular essence of the element that you want to incorporate into your water or your food or anything like that. That's no different than African spiritual systems, whether it be Palo Mayombe or Kindomble or Santeria. Those, even though a lot of those are within the what's labeled Latin American world, they're using Congo languages to activate the particular energies of these deities from the Congo. So that's that's kind of what I'm using as an example, that it has to be a particular vibratory language that will stimulate the essence of the element that we are seeking to activate. Because it's like the example of the banana. The banana has all the forces within it too. It has earth, air, fire, and water within the banana. So whatever particular element that we are seeking to activate, then we could kind of use the language that speaks to that matter that we want to empower. So the language is really important, to me, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the language is extremely important for other reasons. I mean, as a side quest, I'm also studying psychology, and I'm finding that the concept of reframing has tremendous importance when it comes to what we're doing. The words that we use and the meanings that we understand that these words to mean is what we build our entire reality upon. And if that's left unchecked, our reality is still largely out of our control. So I think a lot of attention does need to be placed on the words we use and how we understand these words to actually mean something. That's why often when people ask me questions or try to bring up subjects, I really want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So oftentimes I'll ask a question immediately back, what do you mean by X, Y, Z? Because my conception of this and your conception of that may be two different things. And if I give you an answer, it might not mesh well with you because we're thinking about something different. But yeah. Who laughing?
Wow.
Man, what's the horoscope say today, man? What's the horoscope say? I gotta see this. Come on now, I'm trying to keep a straight face.
Oh my God, you guys are funny.
Try to maintain the phrase. Oh man. Fix it, Jesus.
You know, y'all can't forget that it was a full moon.
We got full moon. We got Mercury retrograde.
Lunar eclipse.
Lunar eclipse.
So it was just a lot, you know.
Golly, man. Reschedule. All the good people on YouTube. Mama and them. Sun in conjunct natal Uranus. That's breaking down routines. Mars square natal Neptune. That's feeling negative. Ego transformation. Super high. Moon in Sagittarius. Moon in Capricorn. Lunar eclipse in Capricorn, that's what it is.
I just want to say real quick, just with the willpower increase alone, I feel this class is well worth more than $20 a month.
Appreciate that. You know, the system works if you work it. If you're not reading the books, then like, what's the point? Thank you, Dreamwise. Thank you. Dreamwise sent a donation and said, "Don't give it back, Trav." But his wife just messaged me and said she's gonna drag me all over the internet if I don't.
That's really sad.
I'm about to send an email to Trump to see if he'll help me fix it.
Better get that stimulus check out. Trump.
Trump. These people need you, man. Hurry up. Yeah,
I want to share something like about the will, because I think, you know, when we spoke about the will, it kind of, you know, put things. And I want to say Veronica, she hit a lot of good points when she brought up that sixth sphere. And this is a note that I had took from when I was researching into the Raul Nefer Amen's book. I don't even know, how could I just forget the whole name of it? But he was saying that the will is only potential or possibility. The realization depends on the means or the power to carry the potential into actuality. So if a person they haven't empowered themselves, and I think that's what the initiation into Hermetics, the particular steps that's taken through that is to empower the ability of the being, of the person, to have the capabilities of manifesting or not manifesting, but intuiting the internal wisdom, subjective wisdom of the will, so that within this vibration of physical, we can bring forth what we need to bring forth. So if we're skipping particular steps, then we may be able to manifest something, but it's not going to have a lasting effect. It's not going to have a very powerful effect, or it would be like, as they call Maya. It'll be an illusionary effect. It'll look like it's doing something, but it's really actually not. So as you said, the true function of the will is to deny the animal division of the spirit, source of our sensual and emotional expressions. So the will, or Teferet, the reason why it carries that Christos energy, or that Savior energy, because within those last three spheres, which is 7, 8, and 9, that's where we're at. We're not above that yet. We haven't been able to, as what's called in the Kemetic system, we've never been able to go above Sahu man. We are, or in the Japanese and Chinese culture, we are the beast man, or the animal spirit of man. So the more that we get to understand, or we put in submission our sensual passions and our emotional passions, we'll be able to intuit from the supernal spheres, which will trickle down from 1, 6, and 9 into 10. So that's the whole thing, is basically realizing that our willpower is the savior. It's saving ourselves from this destructive force of ourselves. So it's not going to allow us to bring any lower energies into higher realms of ourself, because the threshold can't be understood in that type of way. It has to be a separation. It has to be a veil, or as they call veil of Peraketh. You can't bring Sahu man into the higher intellect of man, because body is not the same as spirit, or the same as soul. So I think that's the realization of the will, that we have, that the will is our particular energy, or our chi. That's why we have to utilize, we have to be empowered. So it's really important when he mentions our diet, being healthy, our breathing, because when you start dealing with Kabbalah, and now you're utilizing the tones of the words of Hebrew, Kether, in these particular, even when you're doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, you are saying Hebrew words, and you have to vibrate those words. Geburah. That's the same thing, is that what you're doing is you're attempting to separate spirit from matter through vibratory tones that will speed up your molecular structure, so that the etheric form can split, or can go in between the tetrapole magnets, or the fluid begins to flow, no different than lava through the tech. So, and then eventually the lava is going to eventually come forth and manifest itself in the action of a spiritual function.
Very well put. Thank you for that. I especially like what you said about the barrier there, and how the willpower itself is the savior, right? And we're still in that beast man, right? The entities to me refer to that beast man as the puppet, and how humanity at large is in that puppet state, puppeted by the passions of the flesh. But it takes that willpower to start to really build a ladder up out of there. I like how you said that it's almost quarantined in a way. You can't bring that lower nature up above Tiferet.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty interesting that when you look at these paths and how they're associated with the tarot cards, The path that goes across from Gibara to Chesed is actually the card Strength with Leo, the lion, which also deals with the solar, you know what I'm saying, sphere. So maybe it takes, looking at it symbolically, maybe it takes a certain level of strength to even come across that barrier. And I think that strength that it's talking about is the will that you've mentioned.
See, and that goes back into the chakras as well, because Muladhara in the Swadhisthana, basically you have to have a strong solar plexus, your solar chakra. You have to have that. Those three have to work in force together before you go into the higher chakras of the heart. But then when you deal with the diop, is basically the veil of the face, because you have another chakra which is called the Harit chakra, which is basically the divine heart, or it's called the Holy of Holies. So this is not your physical heart or the essence of, it's the essence of love. It's not what we particularly show as love. It's the divine essence, or that's made, the symbol of that divine love is Shiva Shakti. When you see them both in the form of together. So when alchemy, I believe it's called amalgamation, that they're amalgamated into one. You will see them, a male and a female, and I believe, because like I said, I have the digital copy, but on the French Bannon book, it shows the man and woman within the love. The love, they're not making love, they are the creation of love. So it's not it's only can be shown in that particular form, because that's the only way that we're going to humanly attempt to understand what this love thing is.
And when you say the creation of love, when you specify that, are you saying that they are the product of love, or they are literally in the act of symbolically creating love?
They are in the act of being what the essence of love is. So what we're seeing is, what we thinking is, they getting busy. They really not just getting busy. They are the essence of the busy. You understand what I'm saying? If I could try to make sense of what what that is, but that's why the Om is above them. They're in a sphere. They're encapsulated right below the vibratory tonage of the universe, which is the essence of what we know as love.
Yeah.
And it goes the same way with the light, or the all, right?
Yes, sir. That's what I was trying to say earlier about.
It's the same way, right?
That's the same thing I was trying to say earlier about light. It's not about the protons and the coming. That's why I said, no, I'm not saying it's about what you see as light, or the sun, or the light bulb. I'm talking about the very concept that we have now humanized as light coming forth from the sun in its daytime. It's where, like in the Bible says, in the beginning was God. Where was God existing at when you became to know this thing as the beginning? It was the undifferential, unknown word. It was consciousness upon consciousness without form. We see, that's why we can't fully comprehend. We can barely comprehend Kether. So do you think we really can comprehend the Ein Sof, the Ein Sofer, and the Ein?
No,
we can't. That's where we get into division. So basically, going back to what I said about being in the state of the will, your will has to be empowered so it holds down your other type of serpent, not the Kundalini Shakti primal serpent, but no, now you want to be reptilian in your consciousness, where you're going to get pissed off at somebody because they're giving you a different explanation than what you've been used to, because it's not just about you. See, that's why I said the eventual end of what we're studying is the not being you no more.
Right.
That's the bottom. That's the bottom line.
Right. Right.
It's the elimination.
Yeah, that's why I started listening more. You know,
And we all,
I didn't
and
mean
we
to cut
all
you off.
have to
That's why
learn
I
it.
started listening more.
And who do you
Yeah.
learn that from? You learn that from your
Yeah.
mother. We learn that from our mothers. And that's why when you go into the concept of the feminine and the masculine, that's the feminine is the one that crowns you king. You because the feminine is the original throne. Your mother's lap is the throne of consciousness. That's why you come through a physical form. Can you imagine if we were born through man, how messed up we would really be? That's why the world's messed up now, because it's off balance. So
Right.
for all of these demonstrations of what we call chaotic expression is nothing but the planetary magnetic polar energy fluid form trying to get us under control or wipe us off the face of its surface.
And we see
So,
that
so that's basically it. Once we learn to put our lower levels of self under control, as the Sphinx shows, the beast, the body of a beast, the head of a man, the beast is under submission. You can never kill it, but exactly, you placing it under submission.
And that's what we got going on right here in the strength card.
And
That's what the Egyptians, when they had the bird head and the beast, half man, half body, right?
They have
That's what that was representing, right?
They anthropomorphize those things, or called the zodiac, which is from the word zoo, meaning entrapment of the animal, is because that's what the Comedics knew. That's what we were. They knew that our earthly nature is that of a beast.
Yes.
You know how long it took the Egyptian society to reach that level of perfection? It took them 100,000 thousands of years to reach that. They didn't just come out born like that. They had to eventually go through a level of evolutionary, a spiritual evolution. See, we think that we've reached our highest level of evolution because we are what is called science, the Homo sapien. Or, you know, we think because we got Zoom and YouTube and cell phones, we think we deep. But the highest level of evolution is Homo spiritualis, where you become a spiritual being. You're not even a person anymore. So, you know, that's the hardest thing, is to say, I don't have anything, I'm not no one. You know what I mean? That, you know, right. Everything that I've learned from researching and reading these books, it now means nothing. I'm in the nothingness.
No, I've got to prove to you how much I know, so that I can see myself as someone very knowledgeable, right? What I'm finding with this information is it's not actually accumulating knowledge to become something better. No, the more of this knowledge that you put into yourself, the more you realize you have to let go of shit. The more that I'm realizing that what I need to distance from, what I need to release, it's not an accumulation and it's not a puffing up, right? I don't go out here trying to make myself sound smart and impress people. It's about, shit, what else do I need to detach from? What else do I need to remove, right?
I'll quote the Bible. It said, the more knowledge a man gaineth, the more sorrow he feels. That's because the more we think we know in the humanly form, the more disappointed we become by realizing I really don't know shit. Or somebody else is going to be my opposing force coming to me, and they're going to know more than me.
Yes.
So now I'm going to feel some kind of way when I'm unable to be the one who knows everything. So the whole science of, like, I'll go back to the Cometians, is that when Set killed Osiris, he killed the righteous man. he killed the example of a king who was ruling his kingdom by a righteous order and balance. Exactly, Hierophant and an emperor. So the whole thing, Set killed him, and he had to be resurrected as who? Heru. And Heru was symbolic of the sixth spear, which goes back to Teppereth. So that's really who we are. We can never become a Sar again, but we can reflect the image of Kether, because Malkuth is a mirror image of the sphere of Kether.
Mm-hmm. As above, so below.
As above, so below. So what we can reflect in our actions is actually Tippereth, the beauty of the acknowledgement of really realizing that. But we got to go through those paths.
Yeah.
And that path 32 and the 32nd path, you know, as you know, I've come across it has those watchers. You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go to
right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And angels to some, demons to others. Depending on how you are reflecting, these things are going to be your prison wardens or your fan club. You know,
you're gonna create your heaven, or you're gonna create your own hell, and it's what you want. And you have the right to go into both. So if you want to go back into the Bible, you go into the book of Job. It said that the sons of God were assembled in heaven, and then it said, "Behold, Satan appears." And then God asked Satan where you came from, and Satan said, "I came to and fro, up and down on the earth." That's us. So when you start to understand that thing from a Kabbalistic point of view, you will you will understand that there is no evil, there is no wickedness in Satan, because he was called what? A son of God. All he doing is his job.
Exactly.
You can't fault an alligator if you go over there and it bites your whole leg off. You can't be mad at that. You should have known that's just what alligators do. They tear your leg off, man.
It's in their nature.
It's their nature.
So you should be in your nature as a God man and put things in their proper place, which means you shouldn't be anywhere near for an alligator to bite your leg off, right?
Why are you even over there, man? It's like I live in Florida. I'm not going to take you to the Ocklawaha River and go fishing with you when I know that this particular river got about 8,000 alligators in there. As soon as you step foot over there, they're all watching and waiting for you.
Mm-mm.
And they know every square inch. So I'm gonna take TK Trav over there to Aglawaha, and now he ends up on the news and some alligator got him. So they're gonna look at me. Why'd you bring him over there?
Yeah.
You know, you understand? So that's the whole thing, is like, why would you allow yourself to become emotionally stimulated when you know that you're not your emotions?
See,
you should be questioning yourself. Why? That's why I say you the answer. Why you feel that something's bothering you? You're being stimulated by something outside of yourself, when you the one who verbally claims to know everything. But you know, that's just I don't know. So now you open yourself up for me to become an animal, so we can both become animals together.
That's literally how it works. You know, oh my gosh. This is why it's useless to try to put off that you know so much, or that you're this intelligent or this smart or whatever, because just in you being and you talking or whatever, just in your being, you display what level you're at. Just in your being. So if you're sitting here getting triggered, you know what I'm saying, in this forum of, you know, those of us who claim to be rising above that, this is not where you belong right now. You still got some work to do.
You know, I just want to interject this and I'm done, because I know I'll be fucking talking a lot. But being right now at 47 years old, I came through the whole 80s. I'm analog and I'm digital at the same time, because I can go back to telephones with the whole long cord from the kitchen all the way to my bedroom, and then you had to go back out there and redial it. I remember caller ID so my whole thing is me coming up in Connecticut and going back and forth to New York and being in particular areas in Harlem and stuff like that. I couldn't come out of my mouth and say certain things without the gods in Harlem saying, show and prove that. You couldn't come out. I come from an era where you couldn't come slick out your mouth. You know why? Because the gods call it, you're gonna get a universal beatdown. Somebody's gonna punch you in your face for saying something that you can't show and prove. And I grew up around uncles the same way. That's why young boys weren't able to come and talk around grown men. Well, take your ass up out of here. Ain't nobody talking to you. So nowadays, as these whole things switch, the energy is all collected together because we're on platforms where everybody can just be reckless. This is it's recklessness. So to learn supreme mathematics and supreme alphabet, if you was given the first degree, which is knowledge, and you couldn't come out your door and show and prove that, you're gonna get your ass literally whooped and sent back home by older dudes to tell you don't come back outside until you know your first degree. Ooh. And you had to show and prove it through the mathematics. You had to add that thing up and you had to break it all back down. So nowadays you can go on, everybody can go online and Google supreme mathematics alphabets, teach themselves. These things so those type of systems were just like Kabbalah. You had to have what's called an enlightener. That's what you are actually representative of. You're a representative of an enlightener. An enlightener would say, I'm not your teacher, I'm just your enlightener. I'm just showing you the way to go. It's up to you to get 120 under cap or CLI power. You had to get the knowledge, wisdom, cipher degree in your mind verbally. So you had to know the circumference of the earth, the speed of the earth, how long the light from the sun take to get to the surface. You had to know all of that. You had to go in front of the gods and you had to show and prove that. And what you would get, you get your flag. You get your universal flag on your lapel. Or you had to kill 4 devils. Lust, envy, hate. So all of these, when particular people begin to say, well, I did this and blah, 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 I just have to get quiet because first of all, earthly, I'm 47 years old. Dude, I've been here for a little bit now. You understand what I'm saying? So I didn't experience these things. So when I go from that into the occult of Connecticut, well, you don't, that's where all that Ichabod Crane and all of this, that's where we didn't call Halloween, we called it Hallows Eve. We practiced Devil's Night. We used to go into the cemetery and in the melon heads and all this magical shit that happens all in Connecticut on the Connecticut-New York borderline. So it takes us to begin. So you have to know thyself so you can know where you're at in the present time. So I could only be humbled to a particular energy like you, so I can now go through the next threshold of where I need to be, because I couldn't bring myself there. So that's when that's where insanity is set in. When you have to, you keep trying to figure certain things out, you're gonna have to go outside of your comfort zone, and you're gonna have to connect with something that can now expand your consciousness. So what we're all doing is conscious expansion,
right?
Which is basically returning back to the nothingness. And we know that the nothing is the Ein Sof, Ein Sofer, and the Ein, where you don't correspond yourself with Kabbalah. There is no Kabbalah in the Ein. There is no initiatory processes in the Ein Sof. That's only Malkuth. So I'm just gonna leave it alone, man.
That's some good stuff, though.
100 emoji.
That's some good stuff, man.
See that, you know, that we just lost particular systems. See, because we're modern hermeticists, we're modern arcanum practitioners. So we practice it within the modern times. But like I said earlier, I'm still methodical. I respect the ancient ways of doing things. So I do particular, as I call craft work. I still do it as the ancient way of doing it from a priestly perspective. I just don't do particular work without going through a fasting, a subjecting myself or putting myself under submission before I interact with even this. Everybody should be meditating before they even come into this, because this right here is a subconscious, conscious realm being on a computer and intaking this information. That's why you can't take none of this personal.
You cannot.
Yeah. I do that 30 minutes before we start.
Yeah. And it's
something
important.
I'm used to. Yeah.
It's definitely important. But I'm just saying that, and I want people to realize that to get where you're at right now at a particular age, distinguishing how long you physically been on this planet, you have to realize that you have to study the ways before you came. It's like a hip hop culture. The hip hop culture is a youth culture that's expressed the way that the youth need to get it off their chest. So right now, youth culture is based off of, if you ain't got that bag, and you ain't showing these diamonds, and you ain't riding no foreigns, these young boys ain't fucking with you like that. So the whole thing is, you have to go back and respect where you got this image from. So, because it's always been about the bag, it's always been about the diamonds, it's always been about dope. It just was expressed a different way based off of the path. But when it comes to this information, people are not separating their ego from the obtainment of particular information that's making them feel some kind of way. You're not supposed to feel anything. You're supposed to take it, and as I go back to the 5%, you're supposed to take the best part and you throw away the part that's useful. That's unuseful.
Chew the meat, spit out the bone.
Spit out the bone. But you might even be able to suck on the bone. Sometimes the bone be having the seasonings left on that thing. If you really want to get down to it.
True indeed.
Some people eat the gristle off the bone.
True indeed. Some people eat the whole thing.
You take what you need. You take what you need. You take what you need and you give it away. See, some people are, they don't see themselves as being in a privileged culture. We're privileged. I don't care. Look at all the trouble that's going on. Look what we do. I'm getting to yap my mouth the whole time on YouTube and Zoom, on a computer, internet, lights on. That's privilege. You know what somebody's doing in Uzbekistan right now? They fucking grinding grain to make bread in an oven that was used 1,200 years ago, fire and clay. So we gotta begin to realize that we didn't came too far. I've came too far, and I've been shot twice in my lifetime. So I've came too far to not be able to humble myself to somebody else.
Yeah.
And learn or obtain some good food from them if they're allowing me to sit at their table. And not judge what they're serving. If they bring out motherfucking roasted bat, I might have to look at it and be like, man, this is some bullshit. But I might have to taste a little bit of the bat so I don't disrespect the culture of somebody else.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And that's just the hard thing about this whole cipher. We got its knowledge, wisdom, understanding. It's not wisdom, knowledge, understanding. You can't be wise and don't know nothing. You got to know something to be wise.
Oh man.
This steps is 1, 2, 3.
Loud and long.
So,
That's why I was saying, I try to, I've been trying to just keep quiet and listen to what's going on, because I mean, it's been things said to me in the past. It wasn't directly, but it was a message to let me know, like chill out, just listen to what's going on. And instead of me getting upset, I'm like, okay, such and such just said this, but then I will go back and I will realize, okay, this person is not trying to attack me, they're trying to show me something. And by me just listening, not getting upset, I realized that, oh man, if I would have took this the wrong way, I would have missed the whole point.
see, that's because our planetary vibration right now is too watery. We're in the age of Aquarius. It's watery, it's moist.
Right, it's moist. Yes, that's
Nobody ain't like I said, even though we're still in Aquarius back in 88, boy, you can't reflect none of that shit on Newfield Avenue where I come from. You better bottle that up. You crying, nigga. You're gonna get beat worse now that you're crying. And I'm not saying that was a positive way of obtaining lessons. I'm just saying that sometimes you need for somebody to check your ass. Right. And that's what the Black Mirror and the white man did, that we're supposed to be checking ourselves. Don't nobody
do that.
Check nobody no more.
I don't need to do the Black Mirror. I understand all that already.
Exactly. So nobody checks. So now you wanna bring that forth. I'm coming with 1989. I'm checking you. Show and prove that.
It was the same way, man. Everything you've been saying, I've been listening to you talk, and everything you're saying, it even goes down like that in the street, man. Like, you can't just, you know what I'm saying? You can't just come out there and just jump in and see what's going on, because that's not how it works. So I can dig what you're saying, man, because it's like that in a lot of areas of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm not just trying to say, everything from a street perspective. I'm just trying to say in life, as we put it all together, that's why we do have the strength card and the tarot. That's why it's a balance of earth, air, fire, and water, that we have to be balanced. With too much fire, you're gonna burn your food up. So you gotta regulate how much heat you put on this thing. You can't cook gumbo on high flames. You can't fry fish on high flame. You're gonna have to regulate the heat. You can't just drink a whole gallon of water down in one gulp without choking a little bit on that thing. So we gotta regulate and that's basically how we know ourselves. It's not how I'm gonna check Trav and see where he at. I ain't gonna check Darren and see where he at and check Veronica. No, I'm gonna check myself while I'm in the midst of them. So I can govern myself, as they say in church. I'm gonna govern myself accordingly. And I'm not gonna diss nobody because they Christian. Just because I was 5%, I didn't diss nobody who was Christian. My mother's Christian. What am I gonna do? Diss my mama? The only thing I did for my mother was teach her about pork and certain kind of stuff. You know what she did? She did her due diligence. She went and bought a book called and I think I got it, the 13 crucified saviors. And then she bought another book, the lost books of the Bible. She went and bought that based off of me just giving her a little bit of food here and then, not forcing her. You with the devil and blah, blah, blah. You the devil. You an 85er. No, I couldn't do that. That's my mother. That's the same way with people. I can't come on here or Travis. I ain't never seen Travis diss nobody.
No. But like I say, the way you guys explain stuff, it's like if a person would just, especially me, if we would just listen to what's going on, we would catch on to what y'all trying to say, and we would catch on to more than that, because y'all actually helping us to understand how this thing works.
And this ain't even my show. This is a Travis show. So I'm, like I said, I'm just, and that's just me. That's just Cancer in my chart makes you talkative. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm just a talkative person, and that just comes from just how it is.
But you spewing good information though. It's not just talking just to be talking. You're giving out good information.
And we all got it. We all got good information, and we all can reflect it from whatever point of view that we're supposed to. It's just like the brother earlier, him and his wisdom. No one was barring him from reflecting whatever he had to show and prove or bring forth from his understanding. But once it became an aggressive, totalitarian type of expression, now what it is, like I said, and I know myself, and I have to speak one for me, I am an asshole. So now what you're doing is you're taking me all the way back down into Malkuth. So let's just go ahead and do it now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you what you want.
Oh man.
But the universal energy didn't want that, because now it got to be shut down. Now he wants his money back, which now I'm gonna be an asshole. It wasn't his money who paid, it was his girl's money, because she said, I want my money back. So let me just shut that all the way off right now.
Oh man.
So I'm the person, and that's my choice. That's my book of life. That's my tree of life. What you want? You want me to be the serpent that go in between the paths, or you want me to bite you? You want me to be that serpent that bites you on your pathway? So, that's the whole thing about learning this stuff, man. It's practical application. Panic will tell you he'll tell you the same thing. Some people don't want to learn from reality. They want you to make them feel good in the learning. Right. They want you to speak nice to them. They want you to answer every single dumb question that they have. Go call Panic and ask him something dumb and on the phone and see what he say to you. You're not gonna like certain things that people say.
No. But that's something that you got to learn from experience. You know what I'm saying? If you think in that way, very entitled and childlike, you can't really be broken out of that until you get the experience. So it's good. It's good when it happens.
You gotta be broken down.
You gotta be. I remember when I was there. You know what I'm saying? I was there when I was young, but I had experiences that broke me out of it, thankfully, quickly.
And that's why we deal with the elemental forces, because you can't deal with the whole of a thing without going back down to its elemental forces. What are the composites that bring forth this thing as a whole? So we know there's earth, air, fire, water, but then we can bring in that, protons, electrons, certain neutrons. So, cells, atoms, and quarks. Once you now learn the Kabbalah and you learn the initiatory processes, you can now go into your own self, like how the sister Veronica was saying earlier about speaking into the water and changing the vibratory pattern. What about speaking to your cellular structure and changing that vibratory pattern? That's how you shapeshift. The magician is a shapeshifter.
Yes.
That's why he has the infinity sign, because now he holds the power of everything. You could be Satan. You can be the dragon. You could be the deceiver. You can be Nachash, who's the whisperer. That's why there's so many different names for this this type of thing. You can be God, you can be Yad-Heh-Vah-Heh, El, Elohim, Elo, Yahweh. You can be each one of that because you hold the particular power, the elements, the structure, but without the will and empowered will, which is your force. That's why diet is important, because if you're not eating right, your chi or your yang energy gonna be off. That's why semen retention is important, which men don't seem to understand. We ain't supposed to be popping off unless you want to have a baby. That's what semen's for, having babies. It ain't for spraying it all over the place.
Spraying.
That's for women. Women are supposed to release her amrit, which is the elixir of life, but that's a whole nother topic and story. But we will only get to that point if we break down the basic chemicals of ourselves, slow down, take it in silence, associate with people that you can learn from, and be humble. So
that is the key word, be humble, because I was thinking 2 days ago about looking at different magicians up there, and every single magician, they're talking about power and the most powerful and power. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, what the fuck they talking about? If we don't even understand what power is, then how do you even think that you're going to get into that stage of power? Or even if you go into the top of the tree of the Kabbalah, how do you even understand that you're going to get there without even understanding that you are already there? So we're all talking about all these powers that, and it's not just like in a very basic, but like magicians that they are doing these practices for so long, and they talk about powers and powers, but then I was, but you need to understand what power is, and then you need to understand what your power is all about before you even go there. And I think that breaking down everything that we're doing right now, it is actually the power itself. That's
right.
And you also got, and I'll take it back to supreme mathematics, the 8th degree power refinement. You have to have refinement with your power, because power can be overpowering. That's why you only got a particular amount of voltage that comes into your home. Because if I was to plug directly right into the live wire up there on the pole without having these conductors to regulate the energy, it's gonna burn my whole house down, or sizzle out your TV, burn your phone up. You have to have a refined source of power. That's what Tippereth is. Tippereth is the refiner of your power.
Right.
You have to filter these things. That's where people get into mistake with not realizing what true light is, because you're filtering it through the wrong type of eyes. You're filtering it through what you physically see as light, instead of closing your eyes and filter that thing through your inner eye. That's why Shiva has 3 eyes. Shiva doesn't see with his physical eyes no more. That's why he don't see lust. He killed the god of lust because he refused to see it. That's what Kanye meant. He said, how can you move like a god in a room full of holes? Because he don't see them as no hole. He don't see them like that.
There you go.
I learned, and I'm gonna give you a secret from learning from this Asian guy. But basically, he was teaching me how to control my lust. Go to strip clubs and as a man, and see if you can control your phallus from getting excited. Be around a bunch of naked women. Exactly. See if you can control that energy. The phallus in the erect form only means awakened Kundalini, which in Kundalini is a feminine energy.
Uh-oh.
That's Kundalini is Shakti, which means primal feminine power. So I can't even be a God power without a feminine force activating it. And that's why everything is off, because when man began to fall from grace, which is fall from his heavenly divine consciousness, he only began to recognize himself as the divine power source. That's why England is messed up. That's why America's messed up. Well, first of all, America and the one guy said he's a Mason. Well, realize that America is a Masonic lodge. The whole concept of America is a Masonic lodge, and as you will learn, no Mason shall ever sit in a lodge ran by a woman. That's why you can't have no woman president, because it's a Masonic lodge. Masons don't recognize a woman as a grand master. She can't be the sun, but she can be recognized secretly as the power, which is the G in the middle of the scale, in the middle of the rule. We know that's the generated essence where God, the yoni is where God existed before he wanted to see himself, or issue forth, or spit forth himself, or all those type of Egyptian terminologies and stuff like that. But the feminine force that's the ultimate power. That's why we go Google and gaga when we see that woman walk by and can't control ourselves and boom, boom, boom. But once a man learns to control his primal passions, then he can graduate to the next level.
Right.
I have a question. Django, do you really think it's a he?
What you mean, God?
Yes.
I think the concept of what we call God is all.
Mm-hmm.
I am that I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Bible could only express it, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. So once you begin to decipher that coded information, you'll realize that what we call God, goddess, is man and woman. We physically express those definitions. What's really God cannot be described. So it's not man, it's not woman, it's not child, it's something I don't know what it is. But I know that I'm a part of it, and I was manifested as a man form, and then we have women form.
It's a woman, but we are manifested in different forms, including everything in earth. So, and everything beyond, but it is a woman. I can assure you that.
But the woman, what I mean by the woman being the primordial, because the woman's composition is that physical form that brings the componentry, which we call elements, into physical manifestation on this planet. It's a womb. And everything that you go inside of is considered a womb. That's why we call our cars, yeah, that's my girl, or we call our boats girls, or even when we dock our boats, it's called mooring. When you give birth, when a woman gives birth, it's called birth. Is the same thing that boats. When a boat is made, a new boat is made new. When it's created. And they bring it down a channel, it's called mooring. That's the same thing with childbirth. So, we realize that the very essence of the woman is the manifestation that brings forth manifestation. The universe is a womb. When God moved, when the Bible says the face of God moved upon the moved upon the waters. Boy, we know what he was doing, moving on that water. If you want to look at it from a physical perspective.
Right.
You can't
But
move
also,
you can't move that good in no dry plane.
And you said something you said earlier about male and female. And this made me think about Genesis where it says male and female, he made them. A lot of people are like, oh, that means there was 2 creations in the Bible, 2 males, 2 females. But now that I think about it, what if he's actually talking about the masculine and feminine aspect of, the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushima, male and female, he made them.
Exactly.
What if he's actually talking about, the 2 sets of energies present in the one, as opposed to and then the atom was the physical creation of that.
If you're very big, if you are first no form, let's just look at it like this from our thinking. If you are no form, only thing you are is consciousness. Consciousness upon consciousness. But then you begin to stir and move, and your consciousness says, I want to experience myself so I can see myself outwardly, because you've always been an inward expression, quote unquote, what's considered inward. So now you want to see yourself outwardly, and you say to yourselves, because you're all things, your I am that I am, and you say, shoot, well, let's go ahead and let's make ourselves. Let me make myself. And an expression of yourself has to be a male form, has to be a female form, because there's no balance. Balance can be in one, but it has to be balanced by other numerical values. We got the middle pillar, we got a pillar of severity, and we have the pillar of mercy. None of those are balanced by themselves. They can be real deep. Just the one pillar, yeah, the pillar of mercy is real deep. But the pillar of clemency, that's deep by itself, but it would mean, man, James Brown said that thing, man. James Brown said it wouldn't mean nothing without a woman or a girl. So God has to have that. When he said, like Travis just said, he has to bring forth him the expression. And it goes back to the Kemetic science when it says Atum issued forth from his mouth, or it said he masturbated.
Yeah.
And he brought forth the forms Shu and Tefnut. That's why each one was boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, because it had to be a polarity.
And also, I want to look back at what you said, where you said that God actually masturbated and created life. That ties to what you were saying about the waters moving, right? About consciousness upon consciousness. Let me experience myself, right?
Let me experience myself.
That's a symbolic representation of that same process. And it's almost like the closest way that a basic human could get that is through the concept of masturbation, of self-love. Interesting. And you'll see that reflected also in the Greek myth.
That's why Aleister Crowley, he placed so much energy into that form of particular physical magic of manifestation, masturbation. If you wouldn't even want to even mess with Aleister Crowley back in the day, he was on some freaky, crazy stuff. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So the whole thing is to issue forth, and Shu was the air, and Tefnut, I believe, was like water or something, but they each have their own elemental forces that's brought forth as well. So, it's like I said with the woman, before you even manifest yourself during the act of sexual energy, you are in the astral realm, is where you exist. So then once we men dumb out and say, oh, I'm getting ready to, now a goddess should ask where forth you come from, where you coming from? So what type of consciousness? All right, see, that's why we got so much. I'm gonna keep it real. That's why we have so much defective human beings walking around, because when they brought forth themselves, from some defective consciousness through their physical essence, which we call sperm.
I'm coming. Where you coming?
Which is liquid. We came forth from a gas, which is what? Ether. The fire is the actual sexual act within itself. The earth is the body, and then in the water is the actual composition of what's called semen. And then it matches, and you shoot, and you put about 400 or 800 million sperm cells, but only one makes the actual grade, or it's chosen.
There you go.
So that shows you how deep the female essence is too. The egg chooses which one is the strongest or the most compatible. So even now I have to say this because I got to be balanced. So that shows you the sickness within the womb to choose some of the sicknesses that's in the sperm to bring forth some of these defective human beings.
Damn, it goes both ways.
So it has to go both ways.
I didn't think of it like that.
When a person's talking about I'm coming, where you coming from?
Goodness.
That's why the act of marriage and all of this type of stuff was a sacred act, and it had to have the honeymoon. When you look up that from a mystical perspective, the honeymoon was when the mystical creatures, or what was called the Anunnaki, or the Watchers, would watch over mankind, quote unquote, and they would allow the man and the woman to only procreate during honeymoons. That's what the honeymoon is for. That's why it says, and I'll go back to the Bible again, because that's why then it says, then Adam knew his wife. That's why it always says that when they about to get busy, it always says, then he knew his wife. You have to know each other on a spiritual level before you begin to get on a physical level. Because you may bring forth something that can be, and I'll utilize another mythological thing, that you'll bring forth a Cain, a defective man who's going to be jealous and murder. That's like in masonry. That's why they utilize that. The symbol, if Cain kills Abel and it was only Adam and Eve, why would God need to place a mark on somebody so other people could recognize you as a murderer if there's no other freaking people there? So the mark of Cain was two-balled Cain, which is a mystical word that's used in masonry. And basically that symbol stands for the phallus and the gonads.
2 balls and a cane.
2 balls and a cane. But, I know I didn't took us all the way somewhere else, Trav, and I apologize, man, but I just think that, that's what, we got to have a great, basically what I'm saying and the longest length I said it is basically having, all of us got to have a greater sense of wholeness, man. And it takes a lot of study to obtain that wholeness. Yes, sir. And see how they got them stars on there? That's what each one of us is, a star. If we really go deep into the study of cosmogony and cosmology, you could actually find your planetary opposite within space. But you would have to work with NASA to really get that correlation right there.
Yeah.
You actually exist as a planetary force in what's called space.
And also, before we even get into that level, I would also assume that you would have to have some type of knowledge of what you would do with that knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's a huge reason why most people aren't even able to access that type of information, because even if you had it, who would even know what to do with it?
That's the reason why it was kept secret in ancient days. That's why it's called, you don't give it to the profane.
Right.
Cast not thy pearls before swine, all of that type of stuff. Because
Right.
most people are going to misuse it and try to win the lottery with this thing every week. Or they're gonna try to manipulate people like it is being done. Look what Hitler did with magic.
And that's what I'm saying, dude. I'm starting to, I mean, I still want to teach and share this info, but I'm legit getting into some stuff that I know wouldn't be a good idea to put on a public forum.
And you really
actually
can't.
seeing it.
You really can't, man. You know, you really can't. Look what high science did to the physicist that ended up in the wheelchair. The what's the dude name? He died.
What's his name?
Dawkins?
Hawkins. Steve Hawkins.
Hawkins.
He broke his whole physical composition broke down. If you read about his life, he wasn't like that his whole life. Once he got into school and he started getting deep into that, broke his whole physical composition down.
Oh man.
His final conclusion was that there was no God.
That was his conclusion. There was no God.
Yeah,
and
but
he only said that because he couldn't physically find it. That's what scientists want to do. That's why they keep building bigger and bigger telescopes, because they're trying to find the beginning of the cosmic universe, and all they do is keep finding another universe.
And that's their inherent flaw, because they neglect the subtle aspect of the universe. Science only focuses on the physical aspect. But what they're misunderstanding is what the ancients have always said. The physical aspect is only the last leg of emanation.
Yeah.
It starts as a very fine principle, a consciousness, and then it begins to get gradually more dense. But science is stuck in this little petri dish of density. They're not looking beyond. Some branches are, but mainstream science, they're not going to find God because they're not even looking in the right direction.
Exactly. But look at the tree. Kether, as an individual sphere, has a tree. Hawkma, as an individual sphere, has a tree. As being a part of a tree. Each one, except for Malkuth, has their own individual tree. So if you look at that each sphere has a tree, and then you now have a little teeny sphere on a tree, then you look at another little teeny sphere on a tree, another little teeny, it just keeps getting more and more and more and more. It goes on and on and on. It's infinity.
Infinity.
That's why the Magus card has the infinity sign above his head. That's actually the Sahasrara. That's the Sahasrara chakra. That has 1,000 petals. But the 1,000 is only a symbolic number, which means that it's so many petals on that thing, man. We just go ahead and give it 1,000.
Yeah, right. Just like in the Bible when they use the number 1,000 and 144,000 and whatnot. It's to denote that it's incalculable, because
it's incalculable, and the whole thing is that we will never. That's why it's a countless amount of ways to describe something. It's a countless amount of numbers, a countless amount of gods and lords, and I am Legion, and you have Asmodee, and he's a lord of 60 other creatures, and you got this one is because those numbers are just symbolic of an infinity amount of sources.
And that's what I'm coming to find as a inherent quality of the physical dimension. I'm finding that the physical dimension, it's infinite because it's contained, almost like a computer game where if you keep going towards the barrier, it just randomly generates more just so you can keep going. I think the physical realm is a lot like that. We think that it's, that's why space seems to expand forever. It generates as much as we can perceive it. It's not meant to be an end. But what that signifies to me is that it's not true reality. You know what I'm saying? The fact that it can continue to replicate like that shows me that it's not reality, because reality is consistent, it's finite, it's a thing that cannot be misinterpreted, right? Someone once said that truth is finite, but what we have is an infinite number of interpretations of that truth. That's why we've got all these different theories and mixed up shit. But to me, what it's looking like is, as consciousness is an observation of that finite truth, we're getting all these different versions of it because we've got all of these different people here. But in truth, I think the physical realm is the way it is because it's an illusion.
See, the physical realm is actually our university. So once we return back to whence we came, we'll have an understanding. We are nothing but a mirror image, like I said about what we call God wanting to know itself. So as us being a reflection of that God wanting to know itself, we're its babies. So we now are the small God, and now we're experiencing this realm, which is our Malkuth. So when we return back to where we came from, we have that experience. We bring back that experience to the source of what this dimension bring back is what we bring back. And that's the whole thing with having multiple religions, multiple spiritual systems. Everything is multiple. But the whole thing is when you deal with ethnogens or you deal with psychedelics, those will bring you to another level of opening doors to the multiverse. Now, either you're going to not be able to handle that type of experience based off of what you bring with you, because you can't come to the table unless you bring something. You got to bring a napkin, or maybe you bring a bottle of wine or something. But if you come there and you bring a halfway offering, you're gonna have a hell of a ride. Some people don't have great rides. I asked my buddy, I said, "Yo, man, so you ever took shrooms?" And he said that thing, his voice went so somber.
Oh, no.
He said, "Yeah, man, it wasn't great at all." I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah, I'd never do it again." And he based all of his experience on the fact that, because he says, if grass is supposed to be green, I want it to stay green. He said the grass was purple and pink when he was, and that was enough for him to have a bad trip.
Oh man.
I said, "Well, yo," I said, "You ain't having no deep spiritual awakening?" He said, "Man, I didn't like it." He was so serious about it. Other people, they're like, "Man, I was never the same again, and it was great." I'm talking about I asked him, like, if his mama died. He was that somber about it. So, but the whole thing is, those are the matrix. That's why I used the symbol of a pill. The pill, he had to take something to open his awareness so that there's another awareness. And then once you were in that alternative awareness, which was supposedly the real reality, you still got to be tapped back in,
right,
through your cerebellum or your cerebrum or your reptilian brain, so you can just do what? Recreate a world that you just came from.
Right.
But you're now going to go back into that world with everything that you weren't able to obtain in the physical world, but now you can just upload kung fu and flying helicopters and all of that other stuff because you tapped in with the red pill. You see what I'm saying? So we don't even man, it just goes to, it's just so many layers to this thing, man. It's like Shrek. Shrek says, you know, when the donkey, oh, you're like an onion, multiple layers. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much what it is. It's multi-layered, man.
You know, I'd love to recommend the science and practice of entheogens, but unfortunately, I'm not going to do that because people take shit like that the wrong way, and they start, you know, again, abusing it. But for those of us who are responsible and have true aims of getting to the truth of the matter, I think that it serves as a very helpful asset to this journey, because it helps facilitate an experience where you can encounter these symbols in a very real place. And it also gives you the opportunity to exercise control of self, you know, and to experience what it's like when that ego does begin to dissolve. Because as we've seen today, a lot of people, when even if they feel or suspect, even if it's incorrect, that their ego is being attacked, look how fast that frame changes. Now I'm in full defense mode, right? Attack mode, engage. So just imagine what would actually happen if your ego starts to really become chipped away, right? Starts to really become dissolved. How are you going to handle yourself in that place?
Yeah.
You know,
it is interesting you guys talking about that. I with one of my friends yesterday. I of course I trying to get the mushrooms. I don't want to purchase stuff in the internet without even knowing where these things are coming from or where they planted or whatever. So I asked one of my friends yesterday. She's been practicing magic. She's from Peru, actually. So she, you know, I figure she might have some recommendations up there, like something safety for me, because it's going to be my first time. So I was like, I don't want to be screwing this up. And of course, I've been doing research about the drug itself, which is, you know, pretty much hallucination. So in science, we think it becomes like pure hallucinations in a way, right? So then she comes and she tells me yesterday, I'll be honest with you, she's like, I have not had good experience with it. She's like, I really, she's like, I was having panic attacks and stuff like that. So then I was like, okay, so perhaps maybe she, you know, like people sometimes want to have the good experience. But then I come yesterday night, and of course I did all my mirrors and stuff like that. And then I went back to the computer and I started doing research about it. And yes, it can cause you hallucinations, and yes, it can cause you bad experience. But when they say that it causes you bad experience, is because you're mixing with other ingredients. Like people think to mix it with cigars. Of course, shamanism, they use these things with cigars, and also they use it also with weed. You know, like if you smoke weed, it's also bad idea to combine it with. So this, and she's one of those people that she mixed it with weed. So obviously now I'm thinking, well, you know what? She's been mixing up all these things, and it's not necessarily that the you know, that you going into the stage of experience bad things. It's just the fact that you actually combine it with other compounds. And remember, you disconnected your neurons. Now, if we're going to talk about science now, I can tell you that you literally disconnected the connection of your endorphins and your morphines, and pretty much you disconnected the whole brain. You disconnected the sequences of those nerves, so the neurons. So being said, now you're mixing a different compounds. Yes, you're going to have a good experience, or yes, you're going to have bad experience in it. So it is to be drinking responsibility. So if you're going to do these type of things like this, and I mean, I have not experienced, but I can tell you this, to not mix it with other compounds, because, you know, it can be harmful as well. One of the things of the effects from this type of herbs is that they can cause you cardiovascular issue in the long term. It can raise your heartbeat. Obviously, it would trigger your vagus nerve. That is a very important type of nerve that it relates with your stomach. It relates with your brain. And of course, it relates with the nerve system. It's just kind of like similar to the sciatica nerve. So it would trigger those type of parts of your body. So yeah, it's very interesting.
That's good information right there. Because what it is, like she said, we're mixing it with weed. That's two different type of communications.
Right.
And we know that cannabis is basically an informational plant. There's information in there. So if she's mixing it with whatever compound that she's mixing it with, or another, like a mushroom or something like that, you're mixing it, then you're getting mixed. It's creating mixed signals. That's like I stopped smoking weed, and then I eventually had obtained a seed from a plant, and I grew it. And when I smoked that, and I'm talking about I grew this thing from seed to full growth. I bent the leaves, I bent it, I tied it down the way I needed it to be, and I put crystals inside of the soil. It was a totally different type of experience than it was if you just buy it from somebody and their energy doesn't fit into what you're trying to get from the substance.
Right.
So the whole thing is I stopped even smoking that and just making tea with it. And that was a whole different experience as well. So and for years I told people, I said, man, we don't even know where this is coming from. You know how many different personas that this is coming from? You might have, it's like childbirth. The mother or the father is supposed to be the first person that touches the head of the infant, because that's the transference of energy and welcoming into this earth plane. But the majority of the time, it's the doctor, it's the midwife, and you don't know what type of particular vibration that the midwife or the doctor may be on. They might be pissed off at somebody, but still doing their job. So now they're transferring this pissed off energy to a brand new infant, and you wonder why it's crying all the time. So it's the same thing with ingesting some type of plant that you haven't actually picked yourself. You've actually communicated with Gaia or Mother Earth or the planet and thanked it for providing you with the experience of its medicine, and then you take it, Man, it's just like I smoked a dust blunt years ago, and most people, a lot of people, when they smoke a dust blunt, they're going to take their clothes off and run off somewhere. But I was with some other dudes who was pretty experienced in it, and it was a powerful substance. And when I inhaled it, I always equivalated to the Matrix of when he began to experience. Remember, he started turning silver, and his hand went up his hand, and that's kind of like when I had inhaled it and I hit it real small. I felt the numbness go over my whole face, and I just sat there, and I just like felt myself sitting next to myself. So I started observing myself. So as I was moving, everything was real slow, and it was like on a cloud, and my voice said, "Yo, man, pass me the lighter." So what I did, in my world, I just tossed him the lighter. But what happened was, when I went like this, the lighter came out, and it floated over to him. So the whole thing is, so now me and him are zapped into each other. He was like, "Yo," and I was like, "Yo, did you see it?" He was like, "Yo, I saw it." So we both got caught. So it was like this magical thing, but it could be a dangerous thing. Like I said, with all substances or all medicines, if you don't know the source of where it's coming from. So it can be, as Veronica said, it can have this adverse, terrible effect on you. Even weed can have terrible effects on people.
Yeah, I can attest to the growing on your own thing, especially in entheogens. Like I grew some mushrooms a few months ago in my closet, 2 batches specifically. And one I spoke the most love to, the other not so much. I didn't have much confidence in it. and you could tell the difference. Like the batch that, you know, I spoke to and I loved, I check on it every day, they grew so big, and the experiences people have had, they're like so crazy. It's like I've met so much love in it, and I'm just like, exactly what you said. On the second batch in particular, it got contaminated. I scooped out the contamination, but I neglected it more. And with funguses, is like they can deal with a bit of neglect, but I think humidity is the biggest challenge, and that one retained more water, and it just didn't do as well. And I could tell that it's just, it does derive from emotion first. Like everything that manifests does come from emotion first. And it's like you were saying, as that parent, you are the parent, the nurturer of that substance, of that living being too. And it really played out with my mushrooms, like case in point. Just wanted to add that.
'Cause I know that plant. When I spoke to it, it was you can see it. You almost can feel it.
Yes.
It's like they asked a question to George Washington Carver that everybody only thinks he dealt with peanuts. But they asked George Washington Carver, how did you find out about this plants and how did you know about this? You know what he said? He said, they told me. That's what he said. He said, they tell me what to do. He did so much for botany. People don't even know how much George Washington Carver did for botany. But what he did, he allowed the plant to actually tell him what to do. He didn't do what he thought was supposed to do. So when I grew this plant, of course, you can get online and find hundreds and thousands of ways to grow it, and you shouldn't use this, you should use this, and blah, blah, blah. I just used what I had. The only thing I did, I bought some good soil that was organic. But other than that, I started off with distilled water. Then I said, well, let me see about regular water. What would it? And I used it. And I said, I told it. I said, I'm going to use regular water. I said, we'll see how it go. I talked to it. And this thing grew. And this was a Girl Scout cookie strand. And I live in Florida. Girl Scout cookie, first of all, is a hybrid that's only grown inside of a facility. It's not something that you grow outside. I grew this thing inside, but I also took it outside and let it get some of its Florida sun. And I'm talking about this one particular flower literally had my whole property smelling like I had 50,000 plants growing around here.
Nice.
It was unbelievable. Birds would sometimes fly down, and I had to make a little cage for it. They wouldn't peck at it, but they would like to just sit inside the pot and just sit there.
Energy.
Because I'd observed it, but that's with everything, with what we're learning and what we're studying. You have to really cultivate the culture of what you want to see grow.
Exactly.
If you want it to grow healthy, then you're going to have to till the ground. You're going to have to take out the rocks, and you're going to have to take out the stones. You might have to check the pH balance of the soil. And then you're going to have to choose good, strong seed to plant in there. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was growing mine, all the forums I would read, I started off with one of the harder strains, penis envy. And everybody was saying this is a bad one for your first time. Don't do this the first time. They're typically grown in lab conditions. It's very hard to get started. You're going to need special materials, a lab setting. And I was just like, man, whatever. It's a mushroom. Like, if it grows in nature and the conditions aren't perfect all the time, how come I can't grow it in my closet? Like, and I did it. The first thing I grew was the hardest thing they were saying to grow. And like reading other people's experiences, they had to try it 4 or 5 times to do it. And I'm like, impossible. It's a living thing. I don't think it takes those controlled environments like we think. I mean, yeah, given what you're trying to do with it, sure. But like you said, it was an amazing experience the first time I took it. The the fresh weight was 13 grams itself. It fit, like, it was almost the size of my hand. And I just took it with a piece of pizza, and like the things it revealed to me, like I could see how thought would change your visual field in real time. Like I was sitting in the darkness, but it was very bright. And like when dark thoughts or, you know, self-defeating thoughts would come up, I would see more jagged lines, more edged lines, like, and you could feel it too. My muscles would start to tense up, and then my thoughts would, you know, start to roll, like spiral out like an avalanche pretty much. And then you could actually just see and hear the things that were going on in your mind around you. And I'm just like, okay, something's up with this. So I tried an experiment. I changed the music and I changed my thoughts with it. Instantly, everything smoothed out. And I think it was one of those trips I was texting, but I couldn't really tell the tone of the text. It just felt really off to me. And it's like you pick up on, I don't want to sound repetitive, but you pick up on a lot of things you don't really realize. And I think correspondence heavily relies in these trips too. Like I always tell people, if you're not with the right group of friends and not in the right mindset, do not try it, because it's going, no matter how much you think you have it under control, it's like, it's going to reveal it to you. And I just recently tried DMT a few days ago. And man, I realized I had so much more shadow work to do, because it was my first time having auditory hallucinations. And as I was fading out and it was taking over me, I started to notice I had a hard time letting go of my personality and what I think about myself. It was a way harder time adjusting with DMT.
That's what changed
it's gonna
Mike
take.
Tyson.
What's that?
That's what recreated Mike Tyson to the individual that he is now.
Mm-hmm.
After he said he took DMT, he said it took him into love.
Mm-hmm.
And he learned, now he let go of that animal self. He said when he took it, he said it started pulling him in, and he started going, no, 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 because he said you could feel it pulling you in. Once he was saying no, he said he just like went through like, yo, and he went inside, and he said that it was just, and as you see right now, Mike Tyson is a whole different person than
exactly
he used to be. So
exactly. And another misconception that, you know, I had to let go of too was, in DMT, you hear all these podcasters and everything talk about the entities they meet, or these beings or machine elves or whatever. Like, get that out of your head too, because that's gonna like mislead you completely. Like, I didn't really see any beings or meet any beings. It's just
don't
like,
mean they're not there.
they're not there. It's like all with yourself. It's like you start seeing like.
No, I'm saying that doesn't mean they're not there.
Right. Yeah. I would say, like, if y'all can try DMT, try it, but like do the other stuff first, like acid shrooms, so you could kind of prep that mindset, because even this took me for a surprise, and I thought I was like a champion at psychedelics, but different paths.
In reference to the growing aspect and the nurturing aspect, this reminds me of what Dion Fortune was talking about in chapter 12. There's a big difference being an outsider and being in the trenches, right? There's a big difference where I can talk about the different plants and fruits and consumables, but there's a whole nother perspective if I'm the one that's actually putting the energy forth in growing them and nurturing them and seeing what it takes to actually put the energy into them, talk sweet to them, make sure that they have the light and the water, and getting involved in the process of building these things up. That's a whole different perspective from the average, hey, let's go score some real quick so we can do this tonight. And likewise with this magic and the occult, you've got some who talk about it from an outside perspective, but it's a whole nother level of those of us who actually employ these methods and this knowledge and use it in our everyday lives. We're looking at it from the inside. And again, I think that this perspective really reveals itself in conversation. You know, the person, real recognize real, as they say. Yet another reason to do the work.
Exactly. Oh Lord, sorry.
Oh my. Shit, echo on that one. That boy Jason deep in Doth. He's dealing with homegirl and Doth.
I wear Doth on my finger.
What was that?
I had to go back and watch it. I had to go back and see what started out. And if you look at his face the whole time while you were talking, you could just see it building up, him wanting to get a word in because he just feels attacked personally. And I'm just like,
yeah. Spirit told me to go ahead and do that because if I didn't do it, it was just going to drag on. So I think I said my piece in the most neutral way possible, you know. But triggers are triggers. Meanwhile, Jason is deep in Doth, discovering the mysteries of knowledge. What secrets will he bring back forth?
What really happened there, man? I don't know what that's like a mystery. I mean,
you know. I knew it was a wrap whenever he said he isn't reading the chapter because he doesn't need to because he already knows all that stuff. And my thoughts are just like, well, what are you hoping to gain out of this if you're not following along in the book? Like, why join this group if you're not going to follow along with the study program and just talk about a bunch of random stuff?
You know, well, young boys call them ops. He was an op.
I've heard that.
If you're not participating in the collective to learn because you already got it and you know it and you've read it, then you're here on some spy shit. That's what they mean. Like, yo, you just trying to watch me. You trying to watch my wave. You trying to ride my wave. So you trying to ride a wave to obtain something so you can take back somewhere else.
Yeah, he actually said that. He actually said that himself. Right. He said, he was like, I'm actually here to see what y'all doing. Y'all supposed to be learning this much, and they said that this magic does this.
Oh,
I'm trying to see what
I'm
y'all
done, man. I'm done.
No, man. Not that kind
But
of
I did have a question pertaining to the text again. I would say more so the collective of it. You said that the numbers of the Sephirot always have to equal 10. Like, is that true? Did I see that correctly? I'm not exactly sure what page that would be on.
Yeah, but I can assume what you're talking about, but I'm not going to do that. In what context do you mean?
Okay, so for example, remember how I talked to you about seeing 77 and 33? A lot, always in pairs. So recently it's changed to 22 and 88. So it's just like, in that aspect, like if I take those corresponding, let's say, what's the second Sephiroth?
Chokmah.
Yeah, so if I take Chokmah and then, what is it, Had, those have to equal 10 of Malkuth, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they always balance out to 10.
Okay. They do, but I think I want to say you're talking more about like just like the random numerology that you see.
I guess I would. I guess I can't really piece it together since I'm kind of behind myself. But I guess it would be more numerology.
Because where they do equal is more in context of where the order of the Hermetic order, the Golden Dawn, where they're talking about the different grades of ascension
Mhm.
through working the tree. In that case, for example, you know what I'm saying? You would be 9-1 here. You would be 8-2 here. You know what I'm saying? 7-3. Like it would kind of add up in that way to show where you're at and how far you have to go. That kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Darth Vader. Op. I learned a new word. Ops. I like that. Now when the young folks say it to me, I can know what they mean instead of pretend like I do. They're always using this hip new slang and I have to like use context to try to figure out what they're talking about.
Or clone, you a clone.
Oh my God.
All of that kind of stuff.
That boy goofy. Tree Marie says Dion Fortune also has a great book on psychic attack and defense. She does. She has a great book on psychic self-defense. But I agree with her in most of the book where she says most of the time when people think that they're under psychic attack, they're not actually under psychic attack. They're just stressing out and making things more complicated than they actually are. So she says that most of the time when people think they're under psychic attack, they're not. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Whether it's a lack of understanding or whether it's people who just need some excitement in their lives, most of the time we're just making it harder on ourselves than it actually is. An actual psychic attack that is to be effective is usually done by someone who would have to have a good reason to spend that much time and energy focused on you and only you, you know. And that doesn't seem too feasible for most occultists. Not saying that it doesn't happen, but you know, you just got to put yourself in a real critical analysis. Like, do I know somebody that's really gonna spend that much effort, and why? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not always about you, boo-boo. But yeah, most of the time, if you think you're under psychic attack, you're probably not. Explore all the other options first. But in case you are, be like water and absorb it. Because resistance is actually what causes most of your suffering.
Travis, want to say peace out, man, and peace out to everybody. I gotta skate.
All right, bro. Good conversation. Hopefully we'll be able to chop it up here on Dreamwise's channel very soon. Uh-oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
He wants your email if you can link up with him on Facebook.
Okay. I'll make sure that I come from the realm of Doth and
yeah.
But oh, everybody, peace to everybody.
Peace, bro. Oh my goodness, what an interesting day. And the energy is only going to continue to get a little bit more volatile. But as long as you stay focused on what you're supposed to stay focused on, it doesn't matter how volatile or how calm the outside is, because as long as you're on your path, all that other shit doesn't matter. I realized that when it really comes to prosperity and success, it has nothing to do with the outside world. Like, a real entrepreneur, a real businessman doesn't look at the economy and say, oh no, it's a bad market, or oh no, I can't start a business. That doesn't matter. What matters is you and your focus and going out there and doing it. It doesn't matter if the economy is good or bad. If you are set on being an entrepreneur, making business, making money, you make it work. Likewise with, all this and all that going on. Oh, it's a war going on and they're doing this to us and we're being attacked. Da, 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 da. Not if you focused on your business, you're not. I'm just saying. But yeah, YouTube chat. Do y'all have any questions or any statements, any discoveries that you guys came across in these last couple of chapters? Because it has been about 3:33 hours. And it's probably time to wrap it up soon. I know you guys don't want to just hang out with me all day. Yeah, if you haven't checked it out already, of course, I made some notes in the Google Drive with some of the most standout pieces that I took from the chapters that we're reading. So if you're in this group here, go ahead and download those notes, get your study on. As long as you're following along, the understanding of how to work the Kabbalah magic should start to gradually become clearer and clearer as we're going. Like, this book is a little bit wordy and thick, but it's not impossible to understand. You know what I'm saying? And likewise, this book here is self-explanatory. As long as you're reading the chapter and actually trying it out, you should start seeing the effects. And you're going to be seeing more and more profound effects as it goes along. So if you're part of this group, I highly recommend that you actually read and practice. Don't be like homeboy and say you already know it all. Actually try it out. And I mean, if you're serious about this magic stuff and this psychic stuff and wanting to do this, that, and the third, follow along in this book. It will take you there. I promise you that, if you take it seriously. Mystic Moons says that you sent me a link to the, oh yeah, you were talking about that the other morning. Where did you send me that link? Stray Panther asks, where are the links to the notes? You can find them on the website, on themajorsociety.com, with the links to the initiation, with Mystical Kabbalah. You can also find them here in this YouTube membership tab. Just click on the membership tab, and there's going to be some posts, probably about 2 or 3 posts back. I have the link to the Google Drive, and that Google Drive has all the notes in it. So it's going to be in one of those 2 places. Both places, actually, the YouTube membership and on the website. And of course, you can always message me on Instagram or, Facebook or whatever, YouTube even. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. And also, guys, if you are not playing with these cards already, I highly recommend, the last couple of videos I did were just a few exercises to help you memorize these cards and their attributions to the astrological signs. So if you got a deck of tarot cards and you don't know how to use them yet, that's fine. Just crack them open and arrange them in the ways that I've done on these videos, and you'll start to pick up how they relate to astrology and to the tree of life. And if you do these practices every so often, you're gradually going to pick up and memorize these cards. It took me a week to sit here and memorize all the cards and to be able to close my eyes and to pull up an image of the card and repeat what it means, all 78, and how they align with the zodiac and how they align with the Kabbalah. Repetition, symbols. You can do it. You can do it. Like I said, I've got the notes on that on the website. But yeah, nobody else has anything. I think I'm about to join Jason. Jump in the dots, get some of that knowledge. Galaxy S9, your name isn't there, so I don't know. Tree Marie says those exercises have definitely helped a lot. Well, shit, I have you to thank because you definitely inspired me to set those up. So thank you. Absolutely. I haven't done a regular YouTube video in probably a month and a half. If you guys have any suggestions for a topic you'd like to see a video on, leave me some comments so that I can swoop in on Mystical Light and say greetings. But yeah, I think that's about it. If nobody else has anything else, I am going to continue my studies in the next plane.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you. MC Maestro says, do a video on the Tinctures of Doth. Oh boy, that's gonna be a saucy video. But look, why don't I just clip out the little section where we had the altercation and just post that as its own video? Self-Elevation says, that's what's up, Lord Trav. Gotta stay on it, for real. We don't want to be know-it-alls, and we definitely don't want to not know shit. Either we want to be exact on what we do know and put these things together. Yes. That's the two extremes, the know-it-alls and the not knowing anything. The middle path. All right. All right, all right. Alchemy Gold says a video on tarot and astrological signs and Kabbalah. That's definitely going to happen soon. But you know, I'm taking my time. I'm not really rushing. I know this stuff, but I'm putting myself in a beginner's position. Like I'm forgetting what I know, what I assume, and I'm learning from scratch. And that's what I tried to explain to homie earlier. Even if I know that I know tarot, I'm relearning it again. And I'm finding this to be extremely helpful because I'm picking up on things that I didn't know. I'm even picking up on things that I was incorrect about because I assumed. So in any practice or study, you want to enter it as like a child, as a beginner. You know, there's no need to take offense to that. You've got to come with an empty cup, or else your cup is full. Then you can't learn anything if your cup is full. I didn't make that up. That's just the way it is. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Peace to everybody here. Thank y'all for coming. Mystic Moons, Zola Lewis, Self-Elevation, Tree Marie, Stray Panther, Charlotte Swain, Matthew Watson, No Homo. Appreciate you guys. Stray Panther says you can title that snippet "The Occult and Cocaine, a Deadly Combo." Ouch. All right, let's wrap it up. Get up out of here. All right, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Mages, here with LVX777. Love you guys. Peace. Follow me on Instagram,